Join us for White Wellbeing.
Yay!
Let's eat.
Are you noticing changes in our country you find troubling? Do you feel unsafe and at a loss to remedy these fundamental shifts? Have you found the book Go Free by Jason Kuna? The Go Free method provides excellent meme curatives and specific language skills to overcome the anti-white psychological warfare being waged against us across the West. Go Free, a guide to aligning with the archetype of Western kind, by Jason Kuna, available on Amazon.
Good afternoon, Hans, New Hampshire Patriot and janitor of White Noir. Good afternoon, Biospirit of the West.
Good day, good day.
How is Hans today? I think Mr. Hans is having some issues. We'll give him a chance to recycle while we go through the intro. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Shade Tree White Wellbeing NWG Space. We hold this space every day at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on X. We are a no white guilt community that meets to practice the concepts and lexicon developed by my friend Jason Kuna, Mr. No White Guilt. You can find him here on X as at No White Guilt NWG, on YouTube and elsewhere as simply No White Guilt, and on the web at nowhiteguilt.org. We discuss a wide variety of topics of interest to white people and look for ways to apply solutions. I'm the Tree Godfather, your host. My co-host today is the Venerable Hans the Skipper. We run pretty casual here, but I do ask that you raise your hand if you'd like to jump in. Kindly don't talk over others. Otherwise, I just call on speakers in turn for their thoughts. If you would like to hop into the conversation, please request a mic and we'll get you set up. We only ask that you comport yourself as much as possible to the Go Free lexicon. And please act like a proper lady or gentleman of the West. As applicable. Let's go, Mr. Hans. I see I can't send you another co-host invite. That's going to be one of those fun spaces, I see.
Yes, I triggered a bug in X because I requested the mic and then the button popped up from the invitation to speak and I clicked the respond button and then it opened up two channels at different volumes and different latencies. So I hear your voice in two different volumes separated by different times. So this is why I left. Yes, so X is there is some gremlins there. Maybe they should reduce they should increase the white percentage.
X beyond some bullshit. Yeah, that would definitely help. Mr. Biospirit, how are you today, brother?
I'm doing quite well, thank you very much. Nothing unusual going on in my world. Just doing fine.
I'm going to do my best, but I am coming down sick. So if I suddenly drop out or break into a coughing fit, uh, well, you'll know why. Uh, Mr. New Hampshire Patriot, how are you today? And then we have the Blue Flame. We'll get him set up. New Hampshire Patriot, how are you today?
Very well, very well. Excuse the background noise. I'm in my truck driving home from work. Apparently, it doesn't like to pair nicely with your Bluetooth radio, so I'll just have to relinquish the mic for now, and then I'll be home in probably 5 minutes.
All right, sounds like a plan. Mr. Blue Flame, how are you?
Doing pretty all right. I hope I can be heard. It looks like it's working today, so that's nice. Right from the get go, it functions. Can only go upwards from here. um, yeah, I've been doing fine. I've been looking into some means to earn a little bit extra with some folks. Small little projects. It's not to make me rich, but everything extra helps these days. So yeah, I had that going for me today. And other than that, mm, I had a for me had an interesting confrontation in a store. I'm not sure if it's worth getting into right now. Maybe we want to cover the intro first or something. So yeah, I can wait. Or if it doesn't matter, if there are more important things speaking of, then that can be broached. It's just something anecdotal that I could share.
Oh, I'm going to call you on that in shortly. We'll get through our Westman of the day. Howdy, Jerome. Good to see you. Benjamin's here, and cool Papa J, and half a dozen or so on YouTube that I can't quite see from where I'm sitting. I just see the number of viewers. So I apologize for that. I can't make it out. Old age creeping up on me. So I don't remember if I've done this Westman of the day before. Something tells me I might have. I haven't looked back through my notebook. But if so, oh well, he's good enough that we'll celebrate him again. And we're talking about John Logie Baird. Those of you who in the know will know exactly who he is, and those of you who won't are about to find out. So he was born in 1888 and he lived to 1946, just after the war. He was a Scottish inventor, an electrical engineer, and innovator who demonstrated the world's first mechanical television system. Notice I said mechanical. In January of 1926, he went on to invent the first publicly demonstrated color television system and the first viable purely electronic color television picture tube. So in 1928, the Baird Television Development Company achieved the first transatlantic television transmission. Baird's early technological successes and his role in the practical introduction of broadcast television for home entertainment have earned him a prominent place in TV's history. Indeed, it has. And here they list several of his accomplishments. But in early 1923, he moved into Hastings on the south coast of England. He rented a workshop and he built what was become the world's first working television set using items that included an old hat box, a pair of scissors, some darning needles, a few bicycle light lenses, a used tea chest, and sealing wax and glue that he had purchased. In February 1924, so just 100 years ago, plus a year, he demonstrated to the Radio Times. Remember, radio was huge. At this point, radio was just becoming to be a big industry, that a semi-mechanical analog television system was possible by transmitting moving silhouette images. In July of the same year, he received a 1 kilovolt electric shock, surviving with only a burnt hand, and was asked by his landlord to vacate the premises. That must have been an interesting experience. I've been bit by some good stuff. I'll tell you, it hurts. But soon after arriving in London, looking for publicity, he visited the Daily Express newspaper to promote his invention. The news editor was terrified, and he was quoted by one of his staff as saying, "For God's sake, go down to reception and get rid of the lunatic down there. He said he's got a machine for seeing by wireless. Watch him. He may have a razor on him." I found that funny. In these attempts to develop a working television system, he experimented using what's called a nip-cow disc, which is basically a big circle. It's got a bunch of holes in it at differing intervals. And I'm going to skip a little bit down here. So in his laboratory in 1925, he successfully transmitted the first television picture with grayscale image, the head of a ventriloquist dummy nicknamed Stooky Bill, in a 32-line vertically scanned image at 5 pictures per second. And I think now we do 22 frames or so a second. He went downstairs, fetched an office worker, 20-year-old William Tainton, to see what a human face would look like. And Tainton became the first person to be televised in a full tonal range. And it goes on to explain a little bit more about the development into what we would consider modern television. But I'll leave it off there. I don't want everybody to fall asleep. But always found this to be quite fascinating. I mean, how did we get to television as we know it today? Of course, today it's all digital and HD and 4K, and but I grew up in a time when television, but even by today's standards, people would consider primitive and would not have would look at it now. Certainly, the new generation would look back at the analog televisions that we watch and go, "How did you make anything out of that? The picture quality is horrible." But for us, I remember when we got our first color television, and that was quite an epiphany in itself. Uh, Realizing that Wizard of Oz was actually in color and not just black and white. Of course, those of you who are old like me know that the movie does start off black and white, but does switch over to color when Dorothy gets to Oz. Something I never knew is when the movie came out, because many theaters even uh, didn't necessarily get, not always have color. A lot of the movies were black and white on film anyway. But I thought that would be an interesting topic for Westman of the Day. And after we get through this gentleman, I want to hear more about Blue Flame's experience. But we'll start with Mr. Biospirit of the West.
Well, I found it fascinating. Developed back in the 1920s because I was not even aware of color TV until I would say the late 60s. A friend of mine had a color TV, and that was the first time I had ever seen color, and it was horrible. I mean, it was the quality was just atrocious on it, and I don't think we had one. I think my mom bought me a little, like a one that was smaller than today's computer screens as a birthday present, um, right before I graduated high school. So that was in the late 70s. So that was the first time I had a color TV to look at, and I was the same way as you, Tree Godfather. I was shocked and amazed that the uh, Wizard of Oz had color parts to it. The first time I saw it, I was like, "What? I thought this was a black and white movie." And really, that's the way that it was, for those of us growing up. We thought that all of the movies were black and white because that's all we saw on television, because our televisions were black and white. Um, so anyway, he's the guy behind the evil machine that's been part of the uh, anti-white indoctrination process for Western kind. I suppose it could have been used for good, but it was used for the I would say, in my viewpoint, it's the high point of anti-whiteism is the television that we were all subjected to. Anyway, that's it.
Well, this is where I would point out that, like most of our technology, it can be a double-edged sword, right? Excuse me. Um, but the fascinating thing about the level of technology, most people don't realize how advanced we are. And I say that thinking back to, if you talk to most people and you ask them, when was the automobile invented? And they'll say sometime in the 1920s. But few will realize that the first automobile was invented not much longer after the Second Amendment was written, for example, which kind of goes to a conversation I had in real life today with the missus, and we were talking about, when people denounce the Second Amendment and they say, well, the founders couldn't have envisioned the technology that we have today with guns. And that's really very untrue because, of course, at the time of the Second Amendment being written, the single shot smoothbore musket was already 150 years old. That was already way outdated technology. All the things except plastic, for example, that you find on a modern rifle were invented prior to the writing of the Second Amendment and were known to the founders. A form of metallic cartridge, a forward grip, um, multiple shot repeating arms. These things were all around and known to the founders. So technology, when we view it from a modern lens and we try to look back, uh, our ancestors were more advanced than we give them credit for. Mr. New Hampshire Patriot. No audio, brother. Still nothing. We'll let him recycle. Mr. Hans.
So first of all, I the history of television, color television, was interesting because color um, is very um, uh, it's very important for your visual perception. And what happened was, when you had redhead um, actresses like Rita Hayworth, Rhonda Fleming, and or Joan Crawford on the screen with red hair and blue or green eyes, um, this made it very difficult um, to calibrate and color balance. Um, and what and I remember there was a model, a redhead model that they used, that Technicolor used to color balance and calibrate their technology. But I don't remember what the name was. But this came up a few years ago because, of course, in the anti-white narrative, the fact that they used a redhead model was to make non-whites look ugly. So typically, there's only one narrative, that's the anti-white narrative. But the real reason was because a redhead with porcelain white skin and blue or green eyes is very complementary colors, which is a problem if you're trying to tell a story, because you don't always want the viewer's eyes to be glued to the redhead on the screen. Sometimes you want to direct their attention elsewhere. So it got in the way of storytelling. But if anyone can remember the name of the model that they used, because she wasn't a well-known actress, but she was an exceptionally the coloring was the widest range, and this is why they used it. But we also have a very interesting history with television, because it was one of the factors that contributed to the fact that South Africa is now majority, is now an anti-white state ruled by non-white anti-whites. So after the assassination of Verwoerd, there was a schism in the National Party, because the All Black team was allowed to play in South Africa, and there were 3 Maoris in the team, which was against the law in South Africa. You were not allowed to, you can host events with blacks or events with whites, but not events with whites and non-whites in the same event. And the white sympathetic party argued that if you let this principle go, there's no reason why you wouldn't let every barrier go up to and including giving blacks the right to vote, which was, of course, attacked as ridiculous, but it turned out to be prophetic. But where the white sympathetic party made the most calamitous mistake was that, because television, there was a debate about letting television into the country. And the white sympathetic party argued that we can't do it right now because we would be inundated with um, propaganda from Hollywood. Now, they didn't have the term, but we know it would be anti-white propaganda, because all the productions will come from anti-white media, and we must first build up our own um, our own media companies before we allow this technology. Otherwise, we will be defeated psychologically. Now, this is an example where um, the right argument is not necessarily the right strategy or the right tactic, because what it turned out to be is a vote for white people was a vote against television, and people wanted television. So they shot themselves in the foot, and I think it may have well turned out very differently if they accepted that this is the reality. We can't stand in the way of what people want, um, and then work with that, um, and focus on the well-being of white people, irrespective of what technology is in the country. But yes, it was very sad because everything turned out exactly like they said. But of course, anti-whites never go and reevaluate. Um, it reevaluate anti-whiteism. They only reevaluate existing Western norms that are not yet white erased. And another thing I want to comment on is people think today about, wow, it was so primitive and limiting. But in those days, broadcast television was the only option because of the bandwidth, the infrastructure available to broadcast signal was compared to today very limited in bandwidth. So you couldn't give everyone its own signal. You had to distribute the same signal to every house, and that was the way they defeated the bandwidth limitation. Now, even today, if you think about, you can connect to a live stream with, I don't know what the maximum is, but 1 million users. That's a lot of bandwidth. But if you look at the underlying technology, they they do it in a way where the video that is transmitted is small blocks of video files, which is then distributed from a central content delivery network like Cloudflare. So it's essentially the engine the the engineering around it still tries to get it close to what is basically broadcast television. But yes, that's my comments.
The New Hampshire Patriot. You got a mic that works yet?
Can you hear me?
We good?
All right, perfect. I guess I must have, talked about technology. I can, Bluetooth link my iPhone to, my vehicle, like most of us probably can. But the technological part is when I went to the microphone part, it wasn't receiving and sending the signal. You know what I mean? So, we're there, but we're not. So, another prime example is the Teslas. I'm all for the technology behind that. Unfortunately, I don't think we're there yet. Same thing with the solar panels. I looked into it. The cost, you're not saving anything. You're spending a ton. People don't realize that a bank of batteries, of 10 or so deep cycle batteries is probably about 20 grand. So you're really not saving a lot of money. Not only that, but you're not generating enough electricity with the amount of solar panels that most people have on their building to do it. So I mean, technology is beautiful and great, and I really love the Westman of the day. Speaking about televisions, I remember when I was younger, I got a 13-inch turnstile type TV with the rabbit ears and whatever. And if the president was on, you were screwed. And I had it with my Nintendo, way back in the day. And if you can imagine playing a video game or Mario Brothers or Duck Hunt on a black and white 13-inch dial TV, you can imagine, to see what the TVs are now with the imagery and the colors, and you got 4K, Ultra, and 1080p, 4080p, all kinds of different things, and it all ended up being I call it an idiot box, because you're not thinking, there's nothing going on. I myself, I choose to watch informative shows such as Modern Marvels, National Geographic, things like that, to where I don't feel like I'm being a total moron. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Man, that's funny because I'm kind of the same way when it comes to programming. I don't really, not really much into TV shows and movies. I'll watch educational stuff. Um, that's kind of more my forte. The interesting thing with solar panels is my amateur station is it's all run, even to the desktop. It's all run by solar, and of course, the nice thing about that is it gives me communications no matter whatever happens to the grid, to the lines going to the house. I don't ever have to worry about it. But when I looked into the solar power for the house, for the whole house, so, a big system for a 12 kilowatt system, it was going to be over 60 grand. And when you priced out the actual components, uh, the solar panels, the Tesla Powerwall unit, and the GTI, it wasn't any. It was less than half of that. So most of that, of course, was profit, and it's very much a scam, because now I have to pay twice as. They wanted me to pay twice as much as the system was worth. Plus, they get the benefit of any excess electricity produced, but I still had to pay a power bill. It was just any way you looked at it, it didn't make economic sense for me. So I basically told the guy, I don't know what you're smoking, but it must be some really good stuff, and to take it elsewhere. But anyhow, Raf is here, and Anglo-Saxon NWG is here. Fornell is here. Cardia Nebula is here. Stumbling is here. David is here. Nice to see a good full house. Good to see all of you. Mr. Blue Flame, your thoughts on television or what have you?
I was just was listening into that, and when I was still a child, in the area where I lived, compared to most other places in the West, it was actually still kind of minimal. Like TV, like yeah, like the concept that TV was starting to become a thing in each household was it was slowly but surely happening already. But far more common is actually that you had like one, like a TV that people would like the community more or less would invest in it. Everyone would give like, I don't know, a few coins, and then the owners of bars, they would be then, with that money they would be asked to buy a TV for everyone to come together to the bar in the weekend or whatever, and then just watch stuff together. Or some rich families that opened their doors to the community, they would buy a TV, and then the neighbors could come have a watch. Uh, and then just sit there a bit in wonder, I suppose, at all these moving pictures. Mm. So there was something communal about that, but that actually vanished real quickly as well. By the time it's like the halfway the early 2000s, it basically was everyone had a TV in his own house, and well, that kind of was it. But the older generation, well, I guess they still kind of do that to a degree. Um, the younger generations, they have never lived this. Like people who were born, into the 21st century. If you would tell him this, is like, wow, you're just pulling my leg, you know. um, as far as TV itself goes, when I compare what you see today with what, for example, there was in the past, um, I find that today you have a whole lot of slop. Uh, where to begin? There is just so many directions you can go into. But what I detect, if you compare the early movies that I can, or like even still with what is it called? When it's just the pictures with texts. It's like who here knows Laurel and Hardy? You know, like these guys. Like with them, you see that sort of evolution where it was all pictures at first, and then later on in their careers, it was a simple, uh, just capturing as they're acting with a camera. Uh, you see that era, if you will, there was a certain pride within the craft. There was a certain inventiveness that today you don't see it anymore, in my opinion, or very little of it. Uh, Today, everything is really formulaic, and it's supposed to be adapted to a certain audience, and so forth and so on. But if I have to compare that with what I had back then, I get the sense that less creative people, and if the industry always has been anti-white, I find it very interesting. Um, and I'm not denying that either. It's like I simply don't know. I definitely agree that there has been anti-white aspects, since early movie making and all of that. It's definitely been there. But that everyone who was in the industry was actively anti-white or consciously, that seems to be a bit of a harder sell. And they would bring in, back then you would have actual artists, actual craftsmen, illusionists, and all of that amazing stuff. Uh, so yeah, like Laurel and Hardy, or these Chaplin guys, with their slapstick humor and all of that. Pardon me. Uh, there was, I don't know, like even if I would watch it today, there is a sort of freshness, a sort of creativity in it, even a certain daring. A lot of these stunts seem to me is like well, yeah, a lot of it is it's a creation of illusion in a way that if you would ask actors or film crews today to do the same thing, you wouldn't even know where to start, right? So that seems to be something, from what I can tell, that's kind of died off. Um, I also detected something like overacting back in the day. I mean, I guess, yeah, overacting back in the day, or at least to me, it seems that way. Is that would there be a romantic scene? It's like this movie El Cid, I believe it's called. It's about a Spanish knight that fought off the invaders from the south. Uh, and the movie in and of itself, it's fun and all of that good stuff. It kind of follows the actual man's, as a historical figure, his life a little bit. uh, but the romantic scenes, it makes me just want to roll my eyes so far, down the back that you can't see my pupils anymore, because it's so over the top and so over emotional. Um, and then today you have almost like it's just as badly received by me. Let me put it like that, where a romantic scene is so it's like hyper passionate, but then on some degree it's also just empty. Um, yeah, and it's like the good acting invokes a little bit of emotion from the crowd, right? And with this stuff, it's just like, what are you trying to do? Like, movies aren't real, I get that, but you want to, your you're presenting art. You're presenting something to people that it's not necessarily about the direct characters in and of themselves, even, but you want to give something to people that they take with them in the next week, the next month, maybe the rest of their lives. It gives them something positive, right? And I do think that many actors and what have you back then, maybe that's naive, you know, were at least in part, or some of them were at least doing it for that too. Just a good time, have a laugh, or consider the past or whatever it's going to be. When it comes to romance and whatever, it was always horrible. Either way you look at it. But more recently, it's more nihilistic. That's the word. These days, when it involves romance, hyper passionate and nihilistic to the core, as far as what I can tell. It's all about being lost in with your emotions and in your physical impulses. It's like that is, yeah. Uh, if that's not love, that is a very poor representation, to put it mildly. Um. So yeah. Um, I would say that of course, there are good movies today, but that is largely dependent on taste. Back then, you really see the attempt at art in it, artistry. I would say though, it's this one movie as well as like Sigrid. No, not Sigrid. What am I saying? Siegfried and the Nibelungen. There's a movie that I didn't even watch it in full. Never got the chance, but I had the opportunity to watch part of it. Thought to myself, like, it's predominantly music. And you don't hear anyone speak because it is with this written text. Oh, just a second. It's with this written text, but just the depictions of everything. Yeah, what have you? I suppose the acting is very powerful. And we there is a certain craft or a certain art, I suppose, that we've lost in that too, which I think has a healthy thing for us, because what Biospirit said is that through TV we have been poisoned, but at the end of the day, it's a tool, and it's about what you do with it. A hammer, you can get. Like, do you blame the hammer if someone destroys something with it? Well, there's not much point to that, right? Because with a hammer, you can also build. And I find with most of the things that come out of our people, inventions such as TV, it's only a matter of what you do with it and to do it responsibly. It's maybe one final point, because I see others want to speak too, is that I find that the older generations, though, the living current generations that are around, I find that the older generation is very, very sensitive to receiving these messages. And that's something that I find a bit odd. I was always told from a young age, it's like TV is fake. TV is fake. Always. Doesn't matter how much you like it, it's fake. It's like, okay. And yeah, that's just something like you can enjoy it, but you realize is that these are people who in the heroes you see, that's not actually them, right? It's a depiction thereof. That's what you need to understand. It's the shadow on the wall, so to speak. And it seems that the older generations, or at the very least from what I have witnessed, they have a lot of difficulty making the differentiation. Now, Jason also says it is that, so many people have like the lived experience when they're watching TV. So it's not that the younger generations are immune to it. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Um, but yeah, yeah. Again, it's let me put it like this: if anyone wants to speak to that, is that do you also detect that the younger generations are a bit less keen to just go along with TV, or not? Like that it is really something that the older generation is a bit more sensitive to. That's just something I seem to notice, and I ask predominantly out of curiosity and maybe with the purpose to find something in that. Um, and anything else? It's actually a pity that Dallas isn't here because I mean, she made that skit, and she and I have actually talked a little bit about the creation of new shows, new movies, not overly much, but a little bit, and that's I personally would really like to see that. Is that we can have our own little TV studio or whatever it's going to be. Just and it doesn't even need to be uh, what's the word I'm looking for? The main focus still can be on presenting a cool story, giving people some genuine, healthy entertainment, right? Let that always be priority number one, and the white well-being can come with that. And yeah, that's uh, that's what we are. To keep it for now as where we are, and that's what's been on my mind and what I think is worth bearing with into the future. But I'll leave it here because others want to speak too.
I think one of the differences it's regards to what was available for entertainment. Certainly, well, in my generation, you know, think of some of the big things to do were to go out to the movies, go out to the drive-ins, or spend an evening at home. All of it watching the same anti-white television. And of course, there's a reason they call it programming. In my opinion, it's a very accurate, apt word for it, programming. For me, most of the time I didn't own a television, so I guess I wasn't as subject to that kind of programming. But certainly the younger kids who were more into games and computers and a lot of the different other things, whereas television went from being uh, programming in movies and stuff to the television became a tool for, it was a computer monitor, it was your game system monitor. There were other things to do with the television besides watch the anti-white programming. And I think that that's perhaps becomes some of the difference. Mr. Ardent Party.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. One of the I've got a few different things to respond to now. So I'll start with Hans. Hans, I think you were talking about Maureen McNamara. I did go, excuse me. I did go and find a link to, I believe it's an Atlantic article that talks about the women that were used to calibrate color for early television. And Marie McNamara was the only one that in my quick skim, that was mentioned as being red-haired and described as having perfect skin tones. So I'm going to guess that's probably who you were talking about. To New Hampshire Patriot, you used the term idiot box, and you could not be more accurate with that. There's been many a time that I've sat with friends and girlfriends and just watched them essentially be zombified by what they're watching on television. And that's never really been me. I've always been a more engaged person when it comes to my entertainment. Now, to be fair, I do love my escapist media. Star Wars, Star Trek, all that stuff has always appealed to me. Someone else also mentioned, I believe it was Blue Flame, talking about how they were told that television and media wasn't real. that was one of the very key things my parents made very clear to me when I was very young. Because when I was really young, they wouldn't let me watch, for example, the daily news. And I was, I think, 12 or 13 before I really regularly started watching the news, or even being permitted to watch the news, I should say. Uh, and yeah, as Tree Godfather pointed out, when we were younger, we were lucky to have, well, in the case of kids in Newfoundland, we were lucky to have two broadcast television channels. Depending on where we lived, we would get two. If we weren't in a really good reception area, we'd be lucky to have one. And generally, that was the CBC, the government channel. And to be fair, at the time, it was nowhere near as propagandistic as it is now. Um, for example, one of the things I used to love to do was watch Star Trek. And when I was growing up in the early '80s, uh, we didn't have a color TV in the house, so I was watching black and white Star Trek. And a few years back, when they did the remaster, I actually turned the color all the way down on my television just to watch it as if it had been remastered in black and white, just for that nostalgia factor. And I found it just as enjoyable as I had when I was a child. So that was kind of a fun experience. Let me see. As to creating new media, yeah, we really should consider something of that line, because a lot of what's being, and the term programmed is not wrong, a lot of what's being programmed into kids these days, especially in the pop culture space, is representative, it's DEI, it's anti-white. Uh, a lot of the time, it's extremely anti-male. It's extremely anti-heterosexual. Uh, so that sort of thing is another thing. I believe it was also the Blue Flame had talked about how there were films with text. I think what you were getting at was the silent movie era. Like Laurel and Hardy, for example, started off as silent movie guys and moved into eventually into the talkies, as they call them. Uh, One really good example of that is Charlie Chaplin. And you were talking about stunts and the illusion factor and things like that. And I'm sure if I mention it, a lot of people will have the memory of watching the facade of a house fall towards Charlie Chaplin, and the window be the space that misses him. From what I understand, that was one of the riskiest things that had ever been attempted on film at that point. And to be fair, at the time, and even now, stuntmen are some of the most courageous performers you will ever encounter. But back then, Chaplin was basically told he was a madman for planning this stunt. And I mean, the odds were, if he had been, if I recall, if he had been 2 inches in any dimension in the wrong direction, he could have been killed, or at the very least severely injured by that falling piece of architecture, we'll call it. So I mean, a lot of the things that were serious craft in pop culture years ago really did come from the European mindset of, okay, we want to make this really entertaining, but we also want to make it believable and affecting. And like the romance that that had been mentioned as well. Yeah, romance now, it's all hypersexualized, hyper passionate, over the top. Whereas in the past, it was very repressed for various reasons, social mores not being the least of them. But even there was a very good period in the 60s to the late 80s, maybe even into the 90s, where the romantic scenes in a film were handled fairly well. I mean, you take an action movie, everything in an action movie is meant to be over the top and extreme. So something like, say, the sex scene in The Terminator was essentially animalistic, whereas the interaction. One of my favorite movies is Lady Hawk, and it tends to be the one that I gauge a lot of movies by. And the romance in that between Michelle Pfeiffer and Rutger Hauer, it's extremely emotionally intense, but it's also subtle. And the performance from both of those actors was so good that you forget that these are people playing a part in some ways, and just enjoy the story. Um, Sorry, my cigarette was going out because I've been talking too long. But uh, the craft of movie making, of making entertainment, it's been severely damaged in the last 2 decades at least, and I think the worst damage has been done probably in the last decade, with a lot of the idea that any piece of media has to be representative of everybody. And by doing that, it's not just anti-white, it's kind of, ironically, it's anti-diversity, because you're not really showing real people anymore, you're showing caricatures, and very bland ones at that. um, I mean, I'm thinking back to movies like Boys in the Hood when I was a kid, and the way that the young black men were portrayed there, the way that the father in that film was portrayed as extremely invested in his son's welfare, but at the same time still maintaining what was then, I guess, a black identity. Uh, to talk about the anti-white programming that was in some of that media back at that same time, the Cosby Show is a great example of it, especially given what we subsequently learned about Bill Cosby's habits outside of being filmed. Uh, that was played as if black people were essentially exactly the same as everyone else, and the only difference was their skin color and the slight bit of cultural connection they had to Africa. And because of that, it kind of put us into a post-racial phase in some ways, not necessarily in a good way either, but it kind of laid the groundwork for later things that would erase white identity, certainly, and even in some ways, like the idea that there is an African American identity was somewhat erased. I'm just thinking now, is there anything else I wanted to respond to? Um, yeah, the idea that we should have our own, uh, I guess, media sources as part of the white positivity movement, that strikes me as a very good idea, because it's another way to get the message out that, look, we don't hate anybody, but we do love ourselves. And yeah, that side of the messaging is very important to me, especially because it's very easy and it's extremely common for people to look at something that they have maybe limited familiarity with and decide immediately that this is something they don't trust or don't like, or that it's some sort of disguised, or the motives are being hidden, the true motive is being hidden. And I think part of that comes from the fact that so much of what we see, especially in the news, is manipulated, to say the least. Um, Other than that, I don't think I have a lot to say.
I will once again throw out there that it's interesting when you go back and look at some of the movies, even into the 1950s. When you look at it from our modern go free lens, you can still find plenty of anti-white meme pathogens, even into the 50s and the 40s, even. Mr. Hans.
Um, so this Maureen McNamara, I would like to know what the spelling of her name is. I cannot find. It's a beautiful name. I mean, It could be that. It sounds familiar. But yes, the other thing I wanted to say was don't pat yourself on the back if you don't watch TV, because the internet is effectively on demand TV. The way most people use it, white youth watch YouTube. Not only do they watch YouTube, they watch people play games. They don't even play the games anymore. That's even worse than being a gamer. They watch black YouTubers making reaction videos, watching white people do stuff. This is how I mean, but I am in the habit of finding old movies because I like movies, but I don't like anti-whiteism. So I'm going back further and further in time, and of course, you always find it. But I discovered an interesting thing. As you go back in time, you go to 1950, then you go in 1949, the pickings become very slim in terms of movies that are really good. When color television, when color theory, when Technicolor was invented, um, there were about 10 years where the movies were just junk because they just focused on the tech. But big was my surprise when I came to 1939. That was an incredible blockbuster year. Some of these movies you would even recognize today. I'm just going to read a few of them. Of Mice and Men. This was one of my father's favorites. Mrs. Smith Goes to Washington. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Another one of my father's favorites. Wuthering Heights. Wizard of Oz. Gone with the Wind. All in 1939. It was as if that whole industry went into overdrive for this very important thing that they wanted to get done. And if you watch those movies today with the lens of Go Free, you would see the anti-white narrative. It's in Gone with the Wind. It's everywhere. So yes, we. It's um, this is a psychological warfare, and it's time to start acting like we're losing it.
Gee, if only we knew what else was happening in 1939. I'm going to read in some comments and then we'll head over to Julia. So, Ardent Party left a comment for you with Marie McNamara's spelling. Cool Papa J Magic comments any TV show or movie can be informative TV if you look at it through the lens of Go Free. The kids used to resist me because they wanted to enjoy watching, but now my daughter just expects it and participates in pointing out anti white narratives and breaking down MPs. That is awesome, brother. Studio Dinosaur writes, don't have time to listen at the moment, but I'm moments away from getting Westman listed on Steam. Keep up the good discussion, lads. Perhaps I'll join tomorrow. Outstanding, brother. Can't wait to start playing that. Robert says, hello, everyone, for White Wellbeing. And Benjamin comments, there is a huge drop in acting quality in recent movies, even from actors and actresses that I considered good before. And I can think of no better example of that than, say, Sylvester Stallone, who is somebody who, in his first movies, I thought was quite good. And then I saw a few scenes from that show he's doing now that I cannot think of the name of, but it's very anti-white. And of course, he's playing right along in the anti-white narrative, and it's quite annoying. Julia, I'll let you take it away, and if you want to direct the discussion from here, I'll let you have at it. I think I can give my voice a break.
Sure, happy to do so. Sorry, I'm coming in late, but yeah, I can do that. Um, I agree regarding the acting. It's gotten like quite bad. Like the Dune movies, which I'm a big fan of the books, so I was a big fan of those. I had to see the movies, but the acting is so wooden, uh, and I think it's the direction more than the actors, from what I understand. So I think it's more a reflection of the fact that of what people are like these days. People are not dramatic these days. People are not lively. People are apathetic and nihilistic and lacking meaning in their lives. And so that's what we see acted out in modern media. So I think it's something like that. I think it's directors trying, being sapped of meaning themselves, and just not seeing meaning in life. And as they say, art reflects life, or is it life reflects art? I think it goes both ways, in my personal opinion. I also wanted to respond to some other things. Um, so from observation, I don't think that I think it's mostly genetic, basically, whether people become addicted to TV or not. Because the people I know who don't watch TV, their parents don't watch TV. You can say, "Oh, they weren't raised with TV." Well, my brother, no, we didn't. I wasn't raised with TV or really movies, but my brother is a screen addict. Um, and he got computers young, but he's also totally different from everyone else in the family. Like, he's just he physically he looks like us, but it's like he's possessed or something. He does not fit in with the rest of the family. Um, but in other families, I observe that the parents are too busy working, or doing more creative or more hands-on pursuits, and it's similar with children. So I think that's the general type of trend, and I think that as long as we have screens, people are going to watch things on screens, like Hans said. So there's no way we can avoid that. Um, and if we can't avoid it, then we need to make the best media out there so that people are watching it. And of course, we need to make it very white positive, so that not only is there good media, but we are fighting anti-whiteism. And this is the one thing that I'm excited about AI for, because I think it really could revolutionize that and make it very possible. And I would also, it's something I'd be willing to personally throw money at. Um, I desperately wanted to act when I was younger, but I'm absolutely horrible at it. Um, but I don't know, maybe I could fund it, or do some I could do some colors stuff. I'm good with colors. Um, not like Marie McNamara. Did I pronounce that properly? Anyway, that's a great story. Um, I really liked reading her story. But just the one things I do like about the Dune films is they have a very good use of color. Uh, Villeneuve, the director, uh, pays great attention to color, and you could maybe say it goes a little too far in the sense that the films almost feel monochromatic, but it has a powerful feeling, which is more than I can say for color in most films.
Okay, Julia, did you want to turn it over to Hans?
Okay, so yeah, I'll just pretend I'm co-host even though I'm speaker. Okay, Hans.
Oh, okay. Yes, thanks, Audit Party. I didn't. I thought it was Maureen McNamara, but it's Marine McNamara. Yes, thank you. Um, on the quality of the direction, acting, and so on, I think it's all over the place. There's still very well made movies, and the best of them are usually um, very anti-white. I can name an example. The series Severance is so disgustingly anti-white, yet it's creative. It's very well made, and it has beautiful white protagonists, male and female, to pull in the white audience. And then once you get into it, there is biological white erasure in almost every relationship in the film, in the movie, or in the series, and all everything is there. The black manager is very intelligent. He's so intelligent that he gets criticized for using big words. The white manager is psychotic. She's a psychotic female. All the white owners of the business are basically psychos. Yes, so we do still get there's still a lot of talent, and there's a lot of white people who make very good but very harmful anti-white stuff. And now we are moving in a direction where you won't need $1 million to make any, good things anymore. So hopefully that will change.
I'll have to check out Severance. I feel like I've heard of it, but I definitely haven't seen it. I recently watched Euphoria, which is one of the most anti-white things ever created. Um, which is, I know that's a bold statement, but I don't think it's too bold. It has a mixed race protagonist. Zendaya plays the mixed race protagonist, who is female. So the main character is a female who's half black, and she's a drug addict. And it's just all about how she's a drug addict who's in love with a man who thinks he's a woman. That person is of course white, and that is played by a supposedly real life uh, trans woman, Hunter Schafer. Um, and yeah, it's just an incredibly degenerate show, uh, and it's not even very good. And the one beautiful white woman in there, which is the now famous Sydney Sweeney, is uh, paired with a very dark black uh, football player for a boyfriend. And of course, she gets pregnant by him and then has an abortion. So it's like, it's just very, very. Um, and they show her, and she's actually a good character other than that. Um, but there's this scene when she's first hanging out with the black guy who is to become her boyfriend, and they're talking, and she's so excited that this big football star is interested in her. He's in college, and she's um, like a sophomore or junior in high school. Um, but this is in California, so it's legal. And they go into a room and they start going down the sexual route. And then she the character, her name is Cassie, played by Sydney Sweeney, puts her hands on him, or maybe he puts his hands. I can't remember now. I have to check it. But there's like this strangling scene, and like, no, he does it to her. That's right, and she like freaks out, because it's like, why wouldn't you freak out by being choked in an intimate scenario, right? And he's like, oh, I thought you were into that. Like, like, I thought that's what everyone does nowadays. And she's like, yeah, no, that's not what I do. And it turns out she has posted all these photos of herself, nude photos of herself, on the internet, and they got leaked somehow, and everyone has them in her high school. And it's just well known that she's a hot body and takes a lot of photos of herself. And yeah, this is the character that Sydney Sweeney plays. So yeah, Sydney Sweeney, I think she likes to play a feminine role, but not necessarily a pro-white role, or white positive role, obviously, based on that. And she's going to be reprising her role in the third season of Euphoria, which is in progress now. Hans?
Well, I I would not get close to that, but the one that I did watch was where she played that Christian school, where she went to this Christian school, which turned out to be some white villain sect, and who's trying to create a new baby Jesus. And in the films, she basically aborts baby Jesus. So this was so disgusting.
That sounds familiar. I feel like but I hadn't seen her before. I feel like I've seen another film like that, but without the abortion. There's also very white negative, and there again, white people like being in a cult, and weird sexual undertones as well. But I don't think they're trying to create a baby Jesus. Yeah, she's definitely not choosing. She's just choosing whatever roles she can get, um, which you know, but she's the only actress that we have who is she's the most attractive white actress we have right now. So Zendaya is considered like the top of the line actress right now. So a mixed race actress who is objectively of average looks at best. Like let's be honest. She's a 5 at best, okay? She doesn't even have a good body. Like, okay, she's not fat, okay? But there's nothing, she kind of has a boy's body, right? If you look at pictures of her, you'll see what I mean. Like there's nothing special about her. I mean, I hate to like be doing the meme of women trashing other women's looks, but I'm not trashing them. They're fine. She's just like average, you know? And we don't pay for media to look at average people. Personally, I care greatly about the beauty of people I watch. So, um, like I won't watch ugly shows. They can't have ugly people in them. They can't have bad cinematography. They can't have ugly settings. They can't have bad lighting. Like any of those things, just no. Like my eyes can't handle it. Beauty is too important to me. Um, Euphoria the cinematography is very good. I'll give it that, and the music is good. But the main reason I watched is it was incredibly popular with young people, including teenagers. Even though it's HBO like R-rated show or beyond with full blown full frontal nudes and at least R, maybe NC-17. It's definitely not something that uh, yeah, I would want most teens watching. And yeah, but if that's the type of thing they're watching, I mean, it totally normalizes the. I'll go into the beautiful male in the beautiful white man in this show. He is the son of a gay man, a closeted gay man, or bi man, really, a closeted bi man who, whose wife has let herself go, but he's otherwise a good father, and he has 2 handsome sons. The wife has let herself go a little bit, but it's not too bad. Um, and he has all these one night stands with gay boys that are much younger. He's a father, obviously a middle aged man, and also with trannies. And he actually has one of the first, I think it's the second episode, yeah, in the first season. he essentially rapes the trans character, and she like he consents to it. It's a see, even when you're aware of it, because they refer to the characters by the false gendered name, you start using the language. Hunter Schafer's character is raped, but then later they try to make it seem like he enjoyed it, and so it was okay, and he just left his body whenever the sex wasn't good, and so it's okay to be raped. So that was horrible. Um, this is the gay father, and anyway, the son ends up being like bi-curious and incredibly violent, and abusive with his Latina girlfriend, and he's otherwise a very attractive white young man and very athletic. He's like the sports hero. Um, it's horribly anti-white. Arden, party, you were first.
Yeah, you had mentioned color and Denis Villeneuve's use of it, and the very first film that came to mind. And I do apologize if it's recovering ground that's been covered, but the very first film that came to mind was The Fifth Element, and how absolutely lush that was for color. Villeneuve really does do a good job when it comes to creating visuals. I haven't seen the new Dune movies yet, and I'm a very big fan of the novels, so yeah, there's probably going to be some issues for me there. But you mentioned, and it's been a problem in a lot of the media lately, talking about mixed race protagonists and things like that. And yeah, I personally cannot understand why Zendaya is so popular as a hired actress. But uh, I think that was really the only point I wanted to make, was that uh, Villeneuve does a great job with color, and if you haven't seen Fifth Element, I absolutely recommend it.
I have seen The Fifth Element, and I really enjoyed it. Uh, yeah, that has Bruce Willis in it, if I recall correctly. Uh, yeah, good film. Uh, I didn't know that was a Villeneuve film, but it definitely makes sense. Thinking about that, I didn't even know he'd been around that long. Um, I thought that the Dune films, the remakes, were the first Villeneuve films that I had seen, but apparently not.
Yeah, I actually have to apologize. I was wrong. It's a Luc Besson film. Sorry.
Well, thank you for interrupting and letting me know, because yeah, I was like, Villanova's been around for that long, like. But no, Fifth Element it is good, and it is the richly colored film. So you're right, color is important, and it's nice to hear that someone else cares about it. Biosphere.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I apparently have not watched television for so long that I am really appalled at the things that you are describing that are on television. I was just like, what? I mean, this all sounds like just it's just pornography. So um, that's available on television uh, and accessible by children and teenagers and adults, frankly, um, is really quite appalling to me. And I don't know. I'm just like, wow. I turned off Netflix back when they had a show. It was one of the end of the world shows that they were doing. I kind of like, and disaster movies and things like that. And the um, the episode that we were watching was like the first part of the season, and it was so it was so horrible and so violent, and the main character was being physically violent to a child. And I was just like, turn it off. That's it. And we canceled our Netflix. And I just did not want to, I didn't want to watch stuff like that anymore. And I didn't want to be giving a company money that was putting stuff like that out. So it sounds like since that time, which was quite a few years ago, it's gotten even worse. And anyway, I just wanted to express my horror.
Euphoria is several years old, actually. Um, I would have to go look it up. I don't think it's more than like 3 or 4 years old. It's definitely not more than 5 years old, but uh it's not like it's just currently on air. They took a little break, and then the third season is in progress, or being worked on. Um, so yeah, I mean, but it's worth mentioning because it was so hugely popular, is so hugely popular. It's still being watched, of course, and it also won a bunch of awards. So this is what is being touted as like high culture now, as the creme de la creme, and it's really really horrible. I don't think that I would be able to watch it had I not read Go Free, more than 6 months before. And so that really helped me not only be able to better spot anti-whiteism, but to better fortify myself against it. Um, I'm just lucky in that I've always been pretty good at compartmentalizing. So I went into it as like knowing already that it was going to be very horrific, and that I just had to take a very analytical view and not get involved, which honestly is not that difficult, because it's very difficult, at least for me. I just didn't care about any of the characters. Except I did feel some horror. I mean, some still slip through. I'm not titanium, but they made the characters so unlikable, at least in my opinion. So it's interesting to me that people were able to watch it. I wanted to respond to something Hans said earlier as well regarding good shows which are very anti-white. So a lot of people, I'm a big fan of sci-fi. Basically, the only things that I watch and read are like sci-fi and fantasy. And so many people have recommended to me The Expanse. And so I watched a little bit of it, like the first episode, and it seemed pretty good, although extremely anti-white and very multiracial. And then I found out that was based on a book. And I'm very strict when I find out that a movie or show is based on a book. I always go and read the books first, because I'm a bibliophile first. So I need to have that. And oh my God, you thought the show was bad? I've only seen the first episode. But and it is well made from what I saw. But the book is so bad. Like I almost could not finish it. It was pure torture trying to finish that book. It is the anti-whiteism is so intense in that book. Uh, it's more less than it's more than in the show. It has the black police chief. I think she's also a woman. So it has that trope. Um, there's this detective. He's white, but he's like in love with this half Asian, half white girl who has gone missing. This is just the general premise. But the book is also just horribly written. So it's filled with anti-whiteism, and it's terribly written. Um, Apparently, it's a whole series. And I just went and asked, what happens at the end, because apparently he just drags and drags it out and doesn't actually reveal like the plot in the proper pacing or anything like that. Hans, did you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to comment on um, the what happens when you watch these movies. Now, you mentioned that had you couldn't really identify with any of the characters, which is a good thing, because what happens um, when you watch a
I am not
movie is
hearing
in
anything.
those
Is
most.
anyone else hearing Hans?
I can hear him.
Oh, Julia.
Oh, Arden
Hmm.
is hearing Hans, and I'm just not. Okay, great. Oh no.
What to do? Okay, let me just summarize. So that programming is very hard um, to resist. So I'm starting to get to the conclusion that there is, unfortunately, not really a way to defend yourself effectively. I watch these very old movies, which is interesting because you are not hammered over the head. But I still do find these things, the anti-white narrative inside them. Um, so I'm sort of getting to Jason's opinion that you shouldn't even watch these movies at all until we clean them out, clean them up, because i- if you do get into the movie, that emotional experience becomes one of your lived experiences that will haunt you. So the only way to safely watch movies with the anti-white narrative in is to have your um, frontal cortex running all the time to monitor and interrupt the thing when it detects it becomes not a very enjoyable experience, I find. But I'm open to any suggestions for clean movies that you can watch and relax and not have to have this bad cop on your shoulder watching over your mental health.
Oh boy. So yeah, fortunately, leaving, coming back seemed to fix it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't. I don't know. I will. I've have so far in my life had the philosophy of not watching things multiple times, or trying to not watch things multiple times, because especially if they're good, because then I want to try to forget them, and then in like 15 years watch them again. So I'm not one of those pure person who people who watches something again and again and again. I like to watch new things. Of course, now that they're not making anything that is good anymore, or it's just horribly anti-white if it is good. Um, yeah. But I'm thinking of rewatching some of my old favorites, and when I do that, if I can find some tolerable things, I will let you know. Um, but yeah, that's what I had to do with this Euphoria thing. Is I was literally 100% of the time, or that's what it felt like to me. Maybe there was, I'm sure there was subconscious stuff going on that I wasn't aware of, but yeah, I was it just in analysis mode. It was not like watching a movie where I was actually relaxing. And like I said, I never felt any connection to the characters. I didn't feel drawn into the story in any way. It was like watching a documentary or something like that. It was very, very much distanced. Um, and I went into watching it intentionally that way, but I think I also couldn't have gotten sucked in because of the way that it was made, because it is bad. It is just a bad show, and because it's just so anti-white, and I am very easily triggered by anti-whiteism in media now, and I just yeah, I can't. It's like even though the show, supposedly the Expanse show, is much better than the book, and people say, you know, the anti-whiteism is tolerable, I find it completely intolerable. And I don't care if the show is great otherwise. No, I'm not going to watch it. No. I'll just read until we have our AI heroes making white positive films. Hans?
Um, I watch, rewatch, not whole movies, but parts of movies and scenes all the time. Because I watch talking movies for the scenery, for it's just so beautiful. I mean, some movies like the movie Drive, some of the scenes are so well set up, although that's also deeply anti-white, the main theme of the movie. But I mean, art is beautiful, and sometimes I just want to, revel in the the creation. And sometimes it's a story. I mean, there's a moment in the movie Vanishing where he reads a private letter from his dead wife that changes his whole perspective of his marriage. There are very beautiful things, and then you re-experience um, that thing. So I do it all the time. But the good news is that um, the subconscious mind can be fooled very easily. We know that. We know that now by all the anti-white meme pathogens that we have to carry in our backpack. So AIs are absolutely going to absolutely fool our collective subconsciousness. So it's a blue ocean. It's a blue ocean for white positivity.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic about that. And with regards to the subconscious aspect, yeah, it's impossible to not be affected in that regard, but people do have varying degrees of control over their subconscious, and you could also develop more control over your subconscious by actively working on it, which is something that I have been doing for most of my life. It's been a big thing for me, in fact, because of personality traits and behavioral traits that I wanted to change. And if you want to do truly change as a person, that requires heavy subconscious work. And I'm also just very interested in psychiatry and psychology, and so I wanted to understand these things as well, and be able to do the work helps you understand the process and the mind better, I feel. So, but the thing is that most people, because they don't have an inner monologue, are going to, just based on that, are going to be not very capable subconscious and heavily affected by whatever they watch. And yeah, they're just basically NPC types. And I don't even mean that in a negative way, because we need people like that. We're always going to have people like that, and they're always going to be the majority. Um, it wouldn't work to have a bunch of extremely disagreeable people who all want to lead. That doesn't make for a functioning society. So we have to have a bunch of people who are happy to just go along with the way things are, and then just control the narrative in a way that is functional for society. Hans?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, but I do feel we are in an inflection point now. Um, we if you think about YouTube, YouTube, there's something incredible happened with the fact that there was a um, platform that made it easy to create content, but that wasn't enough. It was then connected to a mechanism to earn money, and then it exploded. So if we can figure out a mechanism where white positive movies can be there's a business model for these, then I mean then but I'm not seeing it at the moment. But then we're cooking with gas, as they say.
I don't think that would be too difficult to do, because the way that the model works right now for people of, let's say, discriminating taste is that they choose to support uh, when they can. Most people I know who do have enough money to spare to support the creators they watch, support them, myself included. And that's, if you look at the list of the number of Patreon or locals or subscribe star, there are various sites where people can support creators, not just and then they take less of a cut than YouTube, or even just via YouTube. It, it is directly supporting the creator, and so I think there's this huge shift away, like you said, an inflection point, um, not just with AI, but even before AI, because it's going from networks to individuals, and I think that speaks to the power of sort of individual purchasing power, um, and it's having an effect. That's why certain people become so popular, and other people don't, and it's people are so starved for good media at this point that I think that we'd have no trouble for people paying for it, including non-whites. I think non-whites are also starved for good content and would be happy to watch it, especially because it's just there's nothing right now. So you could even make it free and just support if you want, and we'll make more and better content. And I think the donations would just pour in. I think it would fund itself, honestly. Hans?
So there's two examples of platforms that banned AI content in a way. The site Stack Overflow, which is the biggest Q&A site for programmers on the internet, they banned AI contributions. If your account is if they determine that your account uses AI to answer questions, your account will be banned. And YouTube, of course, announced that any channel or AI videos will be demonetized. Now, I think this is motivated at this point by this inherent resistance that we have for artificial creations. And I think YouTube wants to um, avoid damaging their brand when they are flooded with AI content. And that is sort of a warning sign. And we spoke about this before, because we have real analog artists in our community that work very hard to create music the hard way. And we also have AI artists in our community that create wonderful stuff. and there's a tension there. Um, there's a tension there because um, people don't like it when they consume AI content without knowing it's AI, and I'm not sure if that um, you know yeah because what I'm thinking is, why would you need to tell them? Because we're not fighting fair, we're fighting dirty if we can win. So I don't my position is whatever works, and what comports with my morality, which is white well-being. um I don't know, it's a difficult thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's that tension. I think I don't feel it so much with regards to AI film because I can't act and I don't have any experience like directing or anything like that, or even a little bit of editing, but nothing, that would make a film. Um, just like video editing. But I do draw and paint, and I am not thrilled with AI art because of that. So yes, I do understand the tension for sure, and I feel similarly about the music for uh, and even worse in, as I've mentioned before, when it comes to any of the AI music with vocals, there's this echo that I can hear in all the AI vocals that is just repulsive to me. So I just can't listen to AI music, unfortunately, unless it's instrumental, and then it's fine. Um, but yeah, I still feel the tension and wish that it were real. But this is such an important thing that we have to use the tool. I think it doesn't matter that it's demonetized on YouTube. I think that people would still be willing to pay for people to, because it would still be prompted, it would still be crafted with the use of AI by humans. Um, I still think people would go pay on some site. Um, I think locals is the best of the sites, like the least sensory. So okay, that's already a word, censorshipy. Um, so yeah, and I think that it would be better to tell people upfront that it's artificial. I know that I personally would prefer to be told exactly how it was made. Said, you know, in as much detail as is reasonable. Obviously, not a breakdown that enables other people to copy us exactly. But for someone to say, these parts are, this is a mixture of AI and non AI. Now, Philosophy Cat made a supposedly quite good. I haven't seen it yet. I think it's called it's a piece a short film on chivalry, and um and I do plan to see it. And she's very open about the fact that it's made. She's someone who has worked with filmmakers. She's a musician herself, and it's a mix of AI and human made content. And again, the AI, of course, is still human uh, guided. So I don't see the problem with being open about it. Why do you see a problem with that? Uh, because as you say, it's hiding it from people. That seems to be the problem.
um I mean, in a way, it's how many of the Hollywood, how much of a Hollywood movie these days are real anyway? Um, so it's a spectrum where um, I don't know how long ago. I mean, the Terminator 2 movie was one of those movies where there was a lot of CGI. And all that AI is it is automated CGI. So what percentage of the movie has to be automated CGI before you declare it? I just don't see the point. Um, I do see the point in terms of if the entire thing is AI generated. Yes, there's no humans involved. But an example, it was actually quite sad because I visited my hometown a month or so ago, and um, we had an event at school, and this was broadcasted to um, all the you know the I don't know what you call it in English, but all the students that were in the school before, um,
Alumni.
and alumni, yes, and two of my aunts were also at that school, so they were watching over the live stream, and then so this is one of the few white schools left. They are non-white children, but the non-white children in the school are adopted children. It's not from non-white parents. It's an African, and the only reason why the school is white is because the school is Afrikaans only, and non-white parents don't want to send their schools to um, into an Afrikaans school. This is what this new Bella law is trying to do, is to force the schools to be double medium, and then they can be white erased more efficiently. So this white school and this principal is actively fighting with the Department of Education to keep the school white. But what do we see in this celebration of the school um, that is broadcasted to live streamed to all the alumni that they rely on for funding? Well, there's this black child who they had a fundraising for this black child to get a computer. And think about all the boys, because the assembly is separated, boys on the right and girls on the left. What goes through their minds? They know that every door is open for that black child. He just has to show up. Um, Practically all his uh, degrees are stapled to his birth certificate. He just has to show up, and then life is easy, life on easy mode. And every one of those boys there that's sitting in the assembly, they know every door is closed for them, um, and the doors are closing already while they're in school, because of white erasure of the sports. And they broadcast this, so I get to my two aunts, and the one is in tears because of this. This is her school. It's one of the um, handful of white schools left in the province. And this is what they do. They celebrate this little black child getting a computer. And so I tell her now, of course, about how this works and what we need to get, the message that we need to get to the principal and these people, which is this is white erasure, and those white people who are involved in this, they are dehumanizing our boys, because those boys sit there and the implication is that their victimization is not legitimate because they are the ones who need help. They not, and these white ladies, not one of them are going to lift a finger for a white boy. They not, because there's no social credit. It's heresy to anti-whiteism to do that. And so this is the sickness inside our people, which we need to go and help them deal with. But anyway, so I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and I take out my mobile device and I play them one of Slotz's AI songs. I think it was Dreams. But I didn't tell them it's AI. So the one aunt goes, "This is amazing. Who's the artist?" And I tell her, "No, it's not an artist. It's a machine." You know, in that voice of Terminator. She was just so obviously she doesn't have your ear, or otherwise my device's speaker is not quality. But she was amazed. And this was a test that I did. It was a test to see what do normal people think of these AI stuff. Well, what they think is they can't tell the difference.
Yeah, that seems to be the standard. So I occasionally watch a musician on YouTube called Rick Beato, and he was a producer for a long time. He also taught guitar lessons for many years, and produced a ear listening course, and he can't hear it. But both of his children, who were obviously raised by a professional musician, can hear the echo. And none of their peers can, and none of anyone else that Rick has encountered can. So I don't know. There's three of us, at least. I'm sure there's more of us, but yeah, it seems to be a combination of age. I mean, Rick Piatto is not. I think he's like in his early 60s now, maybe late 50s. So he's not that much older than me, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the difference is. I wanted to respond to what you said regarding CGI. It's a good point. You know, when CGI came out, it was the same thing. People were like, "Oh, I don't want to watch anything with CGI. Like everything should be done with models." So, I mean, that is the pattern that we see with every new technology that comes out. There's always pushback, and then the new technology gets adopted if it is truly makes things better. So yeah, I think it's inevitable, and I don't think it'll be a problem. I think it will just be a bonus to us, unless they can actually shut us down. Um, unless I think the biggest risk is white negatives, right? So people, or just people who hate the Jews, or uh, the blacks, or whatever, these types of people. Those people, and I've already seen some, like the most Jewish man in the world, and it was made with AI, and it was a very short film. And but the fact that that's like the first AI film I saw, that's not a great sign. Um, so yeah, this obviously these kinds of trolls are going to produce content that does not make our cause look good, that works against us. But hopefully they will keep stick to these types of very short, like 30-second films. And I think in order to produce a full length film, or even just an episode of a TV show, even just like a 30-minute, or what is it with ads, it was something like what, maybe 22 or something, 21 minutes. That's going to be people who have more of a real agenda driven by love. Only those people are going to really put in the effort, I think. But I guess we'll find out. Biospirit.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that I saw a headline the other day, and I think it was in Breitbart, about um, an AI actress that has been taken on by various studios, and is being paid millions of dollars. You know, I mean, the AI actress is not being paid that. Whoever's created this actress is being paid that, and the actresses in Hollywood are screaming mad about it, and I can understand why, because if this works, then they will just eliminate these screaming harpies in Hollywood, and we won't have to listen to them on their social media anymore. Now, the interesting part might be is that whoever creates the AI actress might create a social media account for the AI actress and pretend like the AI actress really has opinions and stuff. And that would be interesting to see if that manifests also. But I thought it was interesting that that's already happening, and we'll see how much they put that into upcoming films that they're going to put out, because that really will save Hollywood a lot of money and a lot of headache of not having to deal with the emotional baggage that so many of the actors and actresses bring with them. Think about the Disney actress where she got so incredibly anti-white that they had to kind of put the kibosh on her for a while, because people just didn't want to see her or listen to her as Snow White. So if you have an AI generated Snow White, you don't have to worry about the AI generated Snow White going to the media and being a total pig. So there's that aspect to it, and then the other thing I was thinking about was there was a TV show called Glee that was very popular for a while, and one of the negative things about that show was all of the singing and dancing and musical parts of that show were very staged. And so when the people were dancing around and like doing somersaults and all of these things, they weren't actually singing when they were doing all of this moving around. They sang the song, then they did the moving around part, and then everything was blended together, and it made it look very amazing. And so at that time I was in a singing group, and the group had also a smaller group within the larger group that did kind of like it was supposed to be like for the good singers. And so the guy who was running that group was a big fan of the show Glee, and kept making us do these ridiculous things that were not humanly possible. So like wanting us to dance and sing at the same time, and do backflips and all of this ridiculous stuff. And that is one of the drawbacks to all of this kind of fakery in TV and the movies is people they enjoy it so much, and they go, oh well, we have to do that too. But it's not in the human realm to be able to do something like that. And so then people feel inadequate. The people who are expecting you to do it are disappointed in the people, and then the audience is also not happy with what they're looking at or seeing or listening to, because it doesn't come up to the standards of what they're used to seeing in the realm of fakery. So those were just two things that went through my mind while all this was being discussed, and that's it. Thanks.
Those are some really great points. I have seen some of Glee, so I'm familiar with what you speak of. And I heard it got even more wild in the later seasons. So I can imagine though. Um, there has been drama over real life drama over similar things happening on like TikTok and Instagram and things like that, where singers who are very popular, they're not usually quite signed yet, I don't think. They're like TikTok famous, right? And they will do these like making coffee while they're singing. And the whole idea is that, you know, they just happen to have a room with great acoustic and it's live. But they're not actually, no, they made a recording in a recording studio and they were actually just, you know, the coffee is just lined up with the recording. So it's a similar type of thing, and that has also made people upset. So yeah, um, that is definitely an issue. But um, I guess the one benefit of going with completely AI is that we can have humans doing superhuman things quite easily. And regarding Hollywood using them, you know, who says they haven't been using them already? I mean, maybe there have been. Maybe that's why the acting has been bad, so bad. Maybe some of the more minor parts, or at least the extras. I'm sure they've used it for extras for a while. Like CGI at the very least, right? And as Hans so stated so well, of course, it's just automated CGI. So yeah, maybe I'm sure they'll start using it for small parts, and it will just. I think they'll keep the main parts, like the starring roles, real. Um, and I wonder also if there might be a return of theater, if this might inspire people to get more interested in seeing people act in real life, and to see inspire realism, a return to realism with so much fakery. I think that goes on, that applies too, because there's, if you look at the type of what young women are wearing these days, right? They have the lip injection, the lip filler, the long nails, the fake hair, all of that. So I wonder if we aren't overdue for a return to a more natural look in all things. Hans, you wanted to say something?
I didn't, but I do now. I mean, wasn't it striking the difference between Erika Kirk without the makeup and with the makeup? Uh, I mean, um, she could have saved a lot of time and money and just, you know, get out of the shower in front of the camera, and it would have looked better. Um, yes, this there is definitely um, something to be said for for this this false how do you say, this mask that you hold when people want people I think are going to value authenticity more and more, and this is possibly the one thing that's going to put a brake on AI. Is people are going to be very interested to know you know, what role AI played in this production before they commit to fully enjoying it. Um, but think about the fact that um, jump style and shuffle, these are two post-internet dance styles, and they are there's very little white erasure there. There's very little money going into that. Um, and it's completely organic. The people who organize events, these are individuals who are involved in those communities, and something like that um, um, can, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but there's fertile ground for these kind of communities to form with this new availability of technology that is coming now. Um, so I'm excited for the future, but also it when you get to an inflection point, it means small changes, small perturbations can make very large differences. Think about the pendulum, but a pendulum has two solutions. It has a solution at the bottom, which is a stable solution. So if you perturb it, it will return to the ideal solution. And then it has another solution on top of the pendulum, where the pendulum is 180 degrees. That's also a solution, but it's an unstable solution. A small perturbation makes a big difference to the solution where the pendulum ends up. And this is sort of what happens in these inflection points where there are big changes happening. Is small changes that we can influence can make big differences down the line. So it is something that I haven't. It's like when I was 9 years old and I tried to read Alistair MacLean's Drift. Ice Station Zebra, and my mind was just small. I feel like that again now. I feel like there's a solution, but my mind is not big enough to grasp where I need to put my shoulder in. Um,
Yeah, there's so much complexity at play, and then all these other systems in interacting with it. I feel the same. I doubt there's anyone alive. I don't know, maybe Chris Langan. I don't know. Someone has a better understanding, but I think we're all probably guessing to some extent. No one has a perfect prediction of what's going to happen. Um, but I agree completely with you that this is a time when things could go in a variety of directions. And I mean, I think all we can do is really is experiment and then try to um, catch reactions as soon as we can, and anything that is popular, hop on that right away. Um, some people are particularly good at spotting those things when they catch off, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have people in this community, because it is the AP class, who are good at spotting those things. So we might there might be someone here who spots that, or someone who creates that. Before you go again, Hans, the blue flame. I saw your hand up. Did you want to say something? Also, Cardia Nebula, but then you dropped out. So I'll just ask blue flame first.
Yeah, I, I wanted to say something, but I wasn't really sure after a minute of pondering on it if it's actually even worth bringing it up. Because the moment you speak about AI territory, I mean, I prefer to simply call it programming because that's what it truly is. Um, is that I mean, when the actors etc. are out of the picture, and maybe at best you have voice actors left, but let's say even that is gone. Uh, the way how it looks to me is then you're back into the territory of cartoons, if you will. No matter how realistic it might look at the end of the day, it's just simply yeah, animated again. But except by the hand of people, it's done by the hand. Well, it's done by a machine. And I mean, is that something that's really going to be so groundbreaking that it'll would take over anything? I guess it's already kind of spoken to. It's like nah. I'm not sure if any one of you has ever watched the first Lord of the Rings trilogy under Peter Jackson, and then to compare that with his second trilogy about the Hobbit. And I still remember it's like the first three movies, like the opinion was basically, from what I can tell, is like 99% of those who loved the first three movies absolutely despised what happened after, right? And why is that? Because it's basically full of this CGI slop, right? None of it made any sense. It 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 took away from the uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, trying all of this stuff out, and in and of itself, like I can't blame someone for trying, but what at the end of the day what was depicted is like basically Looney Tunes, with a coat of Tolkien over it, and the use of all the well, yeah, CGI, and then in the future is going to be AI. That's going to be the new programming. I mean, to me, at the very least, it's like, what's the difference? Okay, you don't have to pay for any more actors or voice actors. So financially, there is a difference, but in ultimate quality of what you actually get on your screen, you know, in and of itself, it will take a lot of work to get everything right as well. I would think. Like there is an enormous amount of detail that can go into a single scene. Well, but instead of actors acting this out, what do you have instead? Well, you have tons of programmers who need to get every tiny detail right. And that might actually, in a certain sense, take even longer than if you had just had a bunch of actors film it, right? So, okay, it might be cheaper, but you're spending far more time on it. And at the long run, what is the most cost effective then? I guess that's a bit of the question that's still up in the air when it comes to that. And, well, um, on the other side of that, as far as the audiences go, there were people who were looking at this Hobbit trilogy and they said, like, you had these questions for some reason. I still remember. It's like stuff as like, can my movies still look like movies, please? These types of quotes is what you would see in response to that, and that's the friendly stuff. That's before the swearing comes in and what have you. Um, yeah, and anti-whites are going to put it all chock full of anti-whiteism, and they did it with the Hobbit trilogy too, and nobody could. Yeah, the best that the anti-whites got out of that, from what I can tell, is the audience just couldn't give two drops of pick whatever you want. They couldn't care less. It's like, oh yeah, suddenly there are Asians in among the Westmen. It's like, no, this is stupid. Get it away from me. That was the response of the audience in general. It's like, can my Lord of the Rings not even be Lord of the Rings anymore? But that's maybe a bit of a different topic altogether. Um. So yeah, it's if they start using AI, it's kind of like going back to cartoons, in my opinion. But this is gonna be worth it for them. I'm not sure. It's a bit hard to say. I in the immediate, I don't see it unless they refine some aspects where you can make it real quick for a director to create a movie where all the actors are doing the right thing, and the setup, like the background is all perfect as he wants it, etc. Um, Yeah, I mean, there is always going to be some human aspect to this type of work. You can't, because it's programming, it needs a programmer, and that's always going to be some guy or some girl, I suppose. Uh, yeah, yeah. And people don't really want to see that too much anymore. I think most people are done with it, from what I can tell. And if some hardcore anti-white wants to toss money at the slop of some other hardcore anti-whites, like, I mean, is that really something to us? I don't think so. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Well, I think there's a huge difference. I personally don't like most animated things. Part of it is a stylistic thing. Part of it is I just don't like what I deem kiddie stuff, i.e., stuff that's oriented towards children. Even as a child, I never liked that stuff. It's just, yeah, it's juvenile. It's just not my thing. Um, but when it comes to targeting the subconscious, AI, or live action. Let's just call it live action, even if it's not live action. Okay, but what appears to be live action is going to hit the subconscious in the same way that real acting is going to does. So um, maybe not quite the same in the sense that um, when the cues, like the facial cues, the expressions, etc., are not quite correct. I could see that maybe making things less impactful, but I still think it's going to feel way more real to the subconscious, and it's going to suck people in more and just be more appealing. I mean, people have been isn't good live action. But as soon as there is good live action, whether it's AI or not, I think people will return to that. Not necessarily abandoning anime, but I think there's always going to be a lot of people who want to see good films, uh, however they end up being made. And regarding the time matter, well, we have a lot of young people who have the technology and the time. So this might be the perfect uh, project for them. What else? It's not for once. It's something that could be done without having a lot of money. So yeah, it could be the perfect type of thing for a for the and all what who are the type of people likely to have those programming skills, the good prompting skills, more based young people, right? Especially men. So I think there's a good chance that it will be used to make some good media. But again, the biggest risk is going to be that these white negative people make silly stuff like the most Jewish man in the world mini films. Hans.
Well, I would say it would. I wouldn't be surprised if the ADL would fund someone to make an extremely gross anti-Jewish production just to get motivation for regulation. Um, but what I also want to, what's interesting, and I only thought about this now, in computer games, many computer games implement what is known as a double jump. It means you jump and then in the air, you jump another time. So you get two jumps. But what's really interesting, and this is revealing, um, that jump, if that jump doesn't obey the law of gravity, it it doesn't feel right. So even though you are disregarding the laws of nature at by having a double jump in the mid-air, every every part of that double jump, both parts of the double jump, if that doesn't obey the law of gravity, people don't like it. It's not so. It shows you how your subconscious is running all the time. You can feel this. This feels bad, but even though technically it's the same, it doesn't obey the laws of gravity. You can't jump in the air and get it another time. But when you jump, it must obey the law of gravity, and it just shows how powerful the subconscious is. It's running, really running all the time. Now, that you mentioned you don't like animation. Now, of course, Walt Disney was the man of the West who laid down some solid principles for how animation must be done for it to be done well. And one of the principles that he named was anticipation. So instead of the one character taking a baseball bat and hitting the other one, he would stretch back and stretch back and create that anticipation before he hits the other character. Now, in the movie, in one of the Jurassic Park movies, one of the later ones, there was a sea creature that came out of the swimming pool and grabbed something. And there they wanted to use the anticipation in the hesitation or before it bit the thing. But they did it in the worst way because they defied the law of gravity, and it felt not, you could feel there's something wrong with that scene because they wanted to blend this anticipation, but in the wrong way, where um, it it broke the law of gravity, and now your subconscious has this negative experience. But o- so it is interesting to me, these things, and how apparent, things that seem contradictory, like a double jump. It's not a problem if you jump in mid-air, but it's a problem if the jump doesn't follow Newton's law of gravity. And why would your subconscious care? But there's another thing I wanted to mention um, about new things, cool things, the zeitgeist. There's a book by William Gibson. I think it's called Pattern Recognition, and it's not the pattern that you're thinking. So the main character, her job is to consult with marketing companies to help them with their brands. And what she does is she goes what she calls cool hunting, where she goes into different communities and see where, what's moving and, what's wired and what's tired. And I'm thinking about that. She's basically she's in the role of the innovators. And if you look at someone like, what's that English politician? I think is Richard Lowe. He's testing, new edgy things. Today he made a post where he said he's disgusted by this department's anti-white racism. But our role is we are making white positivity cool, so that these innovators can take this. Now, unfortunately, our competition is making white negativity cool. So that's winning at the moment. It's cool to slander Jews. It's cool to slander blacks. So we have some serious competition, but this is where I see our role is in this inflection point to influence the zeitgeist to go white positive. And it's amazing how people think they are courageous while they are avoiding naming the demon anti-white. I've seen a tweet today where someone, yes, that father who ranted about the murder of his child, he refrains from calling it out as anti-white. In his rage and in his grief, he still keeps the reins tight. Um, and this is like a steel band around the heart of our people, that we need to go and take the to break. But yes, I think um we our audience is really, it's everyone, but also these innovators. We need to, and we are speaking to them. I mean, this is what's great about this community, all the great successes we've had, most of them have been through these edgy content creators.
Yeah, no, you're totally right that right now at least it is cooler just because you get more engagement, obviously, from being white negative than you do from being white positive. But I think that that might be changing in the nearest future because it's becoming too popular, right? And that kills coolness when things become too popular. So if everyone says, "Oh, it's on," just say the Jews, right? Like these stupid type of comments, then um, it's no longer cool because everyone's doing it. And it's I think it might be getting to that point quite soon, where and we've seen recently as well, people using our lexicon more than ever. Um, People who are white sympathetic, waking up and saying, "Yeah, I see what you mean now. That uh, being white negative is not the way to go." But un- I think the bigger challenge is, and I don't have a good answer for this, but I hope that maybe someone does, is how can we, um, I feel like reading the book was just took me to the next level in a way that nothing else could have. And that was despite having watched a fair bit of Jason, not like every live stream, but regularly, semi regularly, at least a couple times a month for years. And yet, it wasn't until I read the book that things really clicked for me. So, getting more people to read the book seems to be or key people like Rupert Lowe. It's not Richard Lowe, it's Rupert Lowe. Um, Getting people like maybe just sending um these people copies uh and making we are the premier people in white positivity. No one else is doing as much as we are. So yeah, we just need to just push that is it's I mean, obviously it's the only moral position. It is, and that will always draw the most people. So I think it's inevitable that it will turn that way eventually. And then, like as I said, too many people are awake to the JQ, as it were. That stuff is getting old, I think. So, but if someone has an idea as to how we can better um, express what the book does, or maybe we need to speak more about the subconscious, I'd be curious to hear about that. Hans?
I just want to, I know Slotz is before me. I just want to just to throw it in there. Um, what I thought about doing now is, I mean, I don't talk to these white negatives a lot because I don't think they are our audience. But when I do get to them, I'm going to just tell them that um, you, everyone knows what you think you do. You know, there's nothing new there. If you want something new, come to our community.
Yeah, that's a great response. And I'm sorry I skipped over you slots. I totally missed that. Uh, Come on in.
Was I don't know. I don't know who's host, so I'm just winging it here. Yeah, so Julia, I think you're totally spot on with that it's becoming uncool a little bit because it's too widespread to be white negative. But just fundamentally, the nature of what is actually impressive is not focusing on another group of people or another person. You can't be very impressive doing that. The most impressive people do things with their chin held steady or high and they do something amazing. A lot of men from our history doing that, and they invite intention onto them. They don't invite intention onto others. So just on a fundamental level, that's what white positivity does, is it brings the attention and focus onto us. I also wanted to mention, I came from a white negative background. This was for an earlier point. And I had a confrontation with a family member where I realized I still have white negative, anti-white feelings about non-whites. And I knew I still had it, but the confrontation made it difficult to wrestle with that, while also the conscious mind saying, hey, this is not what I'm about, but the subconscious mind coming from the background and the anti-white narrative, that's what I was told I was about. That's what I have to be about. And so mulling over it, it gets really personal when it's family. I realized the definition I have of non-white, gay, trans, all these groups of people, the definition in my head was that they are defined by their anti-whiteism, by not me, but anti-whites. So anti-whites defined them and their community as being anti-white, as a way to shield their anti-whiteism, as a way to shield them from any kind of criticism, because those groups would feel attacked if you attack anti-whiteism, and they believe that. And some of those groups don't believe it, but I had, taken up that belief that anti-whites promulgated initially. And I think it's a really important thing to mention, because it was just a revelation for me. It's like a wholly different way of looking at it. It's not about the immutable characteristic or the group, if it's immutable or not, having to have that argument. You can mention, keep the focus on us. And anti-whiteism is defining your identity if you allow anti-whiteism to do that. And you make that choice. It's not something that I'm attacking you for. It's something I'm defending my people from.
Yeah, I think those were just all these retards being like, it's the Jews. I mean, it's just so tiresome and unoriginal, and yes, completely unimpressive. So to have people actually posting full paragraphs where they phrase things in a more pristine manner is much more impressive. So I think we can easily beat those. We do have to fight the short attention spans, but people also get bored with things quickly, and so I think people are going to get bored with this endless attacking of other people, especially the people who we want to target. I understand some of them might go through a phase where they're angry and they're just venting some of that and they don't know how to deal with the anger. But anyone who's truly moral is eventually going to come over to our side. Hans?
So slots triggered a memory where I got so lassoed by a friend of mine who is deeply white guilted to the hilt. and I'm aware of that. And I thought I was prepared. But he's in another province, so I don't see him often. But the other last year, we visited, and he's a very good artist. I in previous spaces I had photos of some of his homework that he did and discarded, and so my house is full of his homework. He's a very good artist, um, and um, and he's speaking, and he works for a company that does work for Amblin, which is Steven Spielberg's company. And his company has this program that where they bring black interns in, but it has to be black. And I told him, yes, this is white erasure. They don't. It's not that they want to benefit blacks. They don't want. They want to white erase the workforce. They don't want you. And then, but after the time, I had to work out how did it happen, because then he went and he said, but these blacks also they can't cope, they put in this environment and they're just struggling. And then he says, um, I wonder, and then he starts theorizing about how, and then we get into this discussion about the non-whites and why are they struggling and so on. And after a while, I realized that my friend flipped me into problem-solving mode, and I'm busy solving the problem of how we can make white erasure work. I was horrified. Um, but yes, it happens very easily if you don't relentlessly keep the focus on white well-being.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. We, especially as a white man, uh, you would be an expert and a programmer, right? A scientifically minded man. I imagine you're an excellent problem solver. And so whenever you are called on to solve a problem, of course, you jump to help, as any good white man would. So you just saw it as a problem that needs solving. Perfectly reasonable. Uh, but thank God you had Go Free to catch you. Um, Hans?
Yes, no, that was it. I see Slots has his hand up again.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, but I thought yours was up first. Okay. Slots.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's some wisdom that you have, Hans. And I forgot the rest of my point because of the little interruption between me getting the mic. Sorry about that. My mind works weird.
Oh, it happens. It's happened to me several times. I think it's happened to everyone who speaks regularly in here. So just throw your hand up again. I'll keep my eye on you. So I'll make sure not to miss you again. Hans.
Julia, are you host now?
I am. So I doesn't show as host, but yes, I am hosting.
Okay, because it was kind of confusing. W- uh, um, um, so Tree tried to co-host you and it didn't work. Is that what happened?
Yeah, there have been some
Correct.
technical difficulties, but yeah, we were talking earlier, and I wanted to co-host, and Godfather said he wanted to rest his voice a little bit. So yeah, it's a good learning experience for me, and hopefully I get some good feedback from you all. Feel free to be brutally honest. I appreciate it. Um, but yeah, so I'm a trial run for me. Did you want to say some more, Hans?
No, I mean, you're doing great. Thanks, Julia. I just saw Dinosaur's post in the Jumbotron, and this is another one of those areas where we are seriously lacking is video games, and what a powerful medium that is for spreading white well-being. Although it's not happening at the moment, it's spreading anti-whiteism because the target audience for games is white males, young white males. This is the target we need to hit. So I'm definitely going to check out. Um, I don't know if it's green lights, the Steam Green, or if it's already on sale. But yes, I'm definitely going to check that out, Dino Storm. Thanks for posting.
Yeah, it's I totally agree. We have to target that. I think that it will get targeted just because, again, who are the young people with spare time and programming skills right now? Based white work, what young men, a lot of them white, a lot of them based. So I think we'll have good luck with that. And hopefully, Dino Storm, thank you for this. Will just be the first of many. And uh, yes, like any form of media, video games help instill morality in the populace, and I think everyone is starved for it at this point because we don't have the natural order in place. We don't have God, father, mother, child as is natural, and so everyone just feels out of place and lost. And however we can help reinstate that would be very helpful. Um, I think Hans, you were first, but in case you remembered what you wanted to say, I'll go to you, Slots.
I'll just quickly chime in. I have a question for others. I didn't remember, but thank you for that. I'll take it. Um, I regarding the video game, what's the opinion on appealing to non-whites through the medium of video games with uh, a privation of anti-white ideology um, by framing in the narrative? Because I don't want to say it, but there's quite a significant portion of uh, people with access to video games being non-white, and of course, we want to have our people. There's a significant portion that are white, and we want to speak to their biospirit and enrich them, and make sure that they feel uh, that they're growing through the experience of the video game, or having fun, or just um, solidifying some subconscious positive and healthy behaviors through the shaping of the narrative of the game and stuff like that. But specifically, there's this stigma of appealing at all. It's like any kind of propaganda at all. It's maybe a mean pathogen. Like using appeals to certain groups is wrong, or especially if it's in the interest of white people. And I guess that's where it really becomes an issue of being a mean pathogen. But when it comes to appealing to non-whites in the video games, somehow with that, to make sure that they're not being, or to encourage them not to be anti-white, I don't know what kind of form or shape that would take, and I'm kind of curious of thoughts about that, how pristine it is and all that.
I do have a thought on that. So I don't think that what we produce, right? So what Westmen produce needs to represent non-whites. What we produce should represent us because it's going to be our biospirit that we're projecting, right? So we're never going to be able to represent other people well. So we should just put out what we want. So the natural order, healthy white positivity, framed in a way that is appealing to everyone, and everyone likes a good story. So, as someone said earlier in this, if you have a good story, if you have the right morals, it those appeal to everyone. And everyone also likes ethnocentrism. That's appealing to everyone. Everyone likes to see um, not racially homogenous um, settings. So I think this wasn't a problem before. Like, we've had non-white minorities in our countries for many decades, and they were happy to watch our media, and they didn't complain, and they enjoyed the story for the story, and sometimes they made their own media, and that was fine too. So I don't think it's a problem. Some people will non-whites will make their own media, and that's good, they should. But there will always be some, just like there are those of us who appreciate Japanese anime, myself included. There's going to be Japanese people who appreciate um, the white positive media that we're going to make, and so and others like that. So I don't think it's something we really need to worry about. But the Tree Godfather, you've had your hand up.
I just wanted to comment. I got a laugh out of Julia saying, all, those of us who have spent much time living in Massachusetts will know why that's funny.
Uh, yeah, it's also something I picked up from living in North Carolina. So I didn't learn it until I lived in North Carolina. Did you want to say something more, Tree Godfather?
That's fine. I'll let Studio Dinosaur go.
Hello, lads. Can you hear me all right?
I can. Yeah, you're coming through great.
All right, nice. Crispy.
But
Yeah.
Hans had his hand up, so let's go to him, and then it'll be over to you.
All right, cool.
Okay, I thought there was some cosmic glitch that people don't see my hand, but I'm so relieved. But to answer slots, I think about that all the time, um, because of all these new opportunities of storytelling that's opening up. And the one thing that I think we must make peace with is that we're not going to be able to just invert the anti-white narrative. And the way the anti-white narrative works is that evil is always white, and all non-white characters are good, moral, and sage. Now, we can't just invert that and say, okay, evil is always non-white, and all white characters are moral, good, and sage, because you will be nuked from orbit. You will not, this is a non-starter. It's a non-starter. So that avenue is anyway closed to us. So we don't have to worry about antagonizing non-whites, because that is not even an option for us to do. So that makes it much more difficult for us to, because as Jason said, we had pristine Western art for 2000 years, and it did not protect us against anti-whiteism. So it's not good enough. The artists who think all we need to do is create great art, great white positive art, that's not enough. We need to put the white positive narrative, we need to weave it into every story. And that is a challenge, because we cannot just invert the anti-white narrative. And so I'm thinking about different ways to do that. Think about a core principle of Go Free is that no matter what the pretext, if the conclusion is anti-white, we reject it. And how you can weave that into your story. The concept of reparation, where effectively these people target white babies still in the womb for future victimization, because of grievances that they had nothing to do with except for being born white. So we can take these principles, but um, how do you weave them into a story? Now, one thing that I thought about was, for instance, you can have a game mechanic where um, you can you can model honesty, and the way honesty works is there's usually a short-term benefit for being dishonest, but long-term it's going to be at a great disadvantage. And I'm thinking like a game that some of the games that I played with in the past, you could be dishonest, but the information of your dishonesty doesn't propagate to other NPCs. So you could be dishonest without consequences in these games. And this is very unhealthy. But that's just a small example where you, and most of these game mechanics that are in the games are very poisonous at the moment, really poisonous. But the problem we have to solve is we cannot just create great art. We need to weave in the white positive narrative. It must be, and you know the most powerful anti-white movies, because it's so ridiculously easy to take a great white positive production and make it anti-white just by casting. You take the exact same story, like take any great movie in the past, white pristine movie. You can make anti-white by just casting. But the most effective anti-white movies are the ones where the anti-white meme pathogen is worked into the story. It's part of the story. Um, and I'm trying to think of an example now. Well, anything to do. I'm thinking of that movie, the Last Samurai, with Tom Cruise played in it. They had about 5 cuts in that movie where white people genocided American Indians. It's not part of the story, but it's part of the character's background and part of how he's trying to escape this evil seed inside him. And this is very powerful, powerful in a bad way. But this is the kind of thing that we need to counter. And I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but this is the kind of thing we need to be thinking about.
So I think I think I can think of a variety of ways to counteract anti-whiteism and show it in a moral way that will touch people. And I think one that would be powerful would be redemption arcs. So showing people, um, I watched I think it was last night, um, Charlie Kirk's interview with Nala Ray, who was one of the foremost OnlyFans producers, and she converted to, basically she was one of the early starters on OnlyFans. Was one of the top earners. Um, Her content was making 5 million a year. She only got a fraction of that because her agents and OnlyFans took big cuts. But um, after about 5 years of doing that, she started talking to a great West man who happens to be Christian, and she herself is a pastor's daughter, but her father was supportive of her work on OnlyFans. Shockingly, even when it went to straight porn. But this man, I think his name is Jordan, who was to become her husband, just started talking to her, asking questions she'd never been asked, and uh, it was really basically her becoming born again and really connecting with Christianity. But it sounded like it happened in a very healthy way. And so we could take something like that, So someone who has been very anti-corrupted by anti-whiteism, but instead of it being Christianity, which is the savior, it's Jason's book or someone from this team, right? Or something like that. And it changes the person's life totally. And instead of the person continuing to be a someone who hates themselves, because she literally was hating herself the more she did this work, and she talked about what a toll it was on her and how much drug use there was in this industry and all the horrors. And now she's married, and she's gonna start a family, and they're both white, and so this is a story that could easily, with a little few changes, be turned into a wonderful redemption story. Um, and I think that could appeal to a lot of people, especially in this age where there are so many people who have already made bad choices, right? They've already been porn addicts, or OnlyFans, or slept with a bunch of people, right? But we still need to try to redeem as many of our people as we can and bring them to white positivity. And I do believe that can be done. Even though I'm not a Christian, I still believe that redemption and giving, enabling change, which is very hard to do, but which it can be done. I think that is something that is inherent to our biosphere, acknowledging true change and uh, allowing those people back in to our communities. Hans?
I know I'm jumping the line, but I'm going ahead anyway. So, Julia, you're not a Christian. I am a Christian, so I speak with authority when I say that this is a common occurrence in Christianity. These people come around, they have all the kinky sex that they can take, they have all the sin that they can enjoy. And then when circumstances change and the opportunity for sinning dries up, then they get this great epiphany and this revelation, and the Holy Ghost goes into them, and now they get to have this great redemption arc that they can talk to in the Christian community. And it's a common pattern. So in principle, I totally agree with you. But in this specific case, that woman should just shut her mouth, because what is she telling to Christian girls? You can go and make millions on OnlyFans, and then you can begin a second career of the reformed harlot. Um, so this is a Christian thing, and it's once I recognized it, I'm totally disgusted by it, because they try to one up each other. The one will come and say, I had all this bad sex with these Satanist women. Then the other one would come along and say, yes, I had that, but I also did this. It's hilarious, but also horrible.
Uh, to be fair, when I first saw, I think it was, what's his name? Andrew Tate, talking to Nala Ray, or maybe it was someone else, but I think it was like him and someone else. I thought she was totally a scam. I didn't believe it at all. I was like, thought you exactly what you thought, Hans. But from watching her with Charlie, I think she's legitimate. Um, and I don't think she actually enjoyed what she was doing. So I think she might be a true exception. And I could be wrong. I can definitely be gullible. That's certainly one of my personality traits. But yeah, I'm not saying her story necessarily is the greatest story to be told. I mean, it's a little too extreme. Someone making money off bad deeds. Yeah, that's not a great plot point. But someone who maybe um, becomes a drug addict due to anti-white induced race mixing and casual sex or something like that, and it leads to poverty, right? And then they get something like that, where there's no benefits to the degeneracy and the anti-whiteism. It's just purely destructive. That could still, I think, have a redemptive arc and be good. But Slots wanted to say something.
So about the redemption narrative that we could use in movies, media, stuff like that. I was thinking, you know, if we had made a film or something that used the redemption narrative about a non-white going free of anti-whiteism, that would be probably quite a disruption, should I say, inside the fabric of what's socially anti-white. And I would also question whether or not I should be, trying to write a non-white character in that kind of way. I'm sure anti-whites would have no problem writing, if they were non-white, about a white person and them being redeemed from heresy to anti-whiteism. But I think a lot of positive things could come from us writing our own characters redeeming themselves from anti-whiteism, the anti-whiteism they have, and going free of that. And I also wanted to invite Dino Storm. I don't know if his hand glitched or something, because he was about to go.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it did. I just saw it, so I guess it's maybe been popping up intermittently. So yeah, come in, Dino Storm.
Hello there. How's it going? Goodness me. All right. Well, yeah, I've just been I was hoping to say something like 10, 15 minutes ago or something. But yeah, then Julia kind of said exactly what I was gonna say. And then the Stillbird said what I was gonna say. So it's quite nice to, show up and then we're kind of on the same sort of wavelength. See, and this whole like narrative thing is something I've been thinking about over the past several years. I read the Go Free book back in like I think 2020, 2021. And up until then, I was pretty all right, but I do think that kind of made the difference. And I did just get the cogs turning. Okay, how is this applicable? What kind of stories can we tell? And things like that. And I think that's generally what people are talking about here. Talk about redemption arcs. I think that makes sense. Being a redeemable character. Generally, the thought process I've had with Westman, I've got the one game now. With Westman, I've got to work on. Got to finish. It's a lot of work. It's probably going to take at least another year, if not a bit more. And the story is pretty simple. You just fight monsters and you save women and you save the West. Basically, it's pretty simple. There is a bit of dialogue and stuff in there. So obviously the Go Free stuff, and not just the lexicon, but just the mindset as a consequence of the lexicon is a big driving factor in basically everything I write and all that good stuff. And yeah, so it's just a matter of me just getting pen to paper and actually writing down stuff because I have written stories but haven't quite put them to games yet. So the game I've got Westman at the moment is a bit more of just the normal game where you just do stuff. But I would like to go into the more games with narratives. I'd like to make kind of low poly games, kind of in the Westman universe that have narratives about this stuff. And yeah, the thing is with gamers is they can be quite touchy, I suppose. And same with just entertainment guys. If something's a bit too explicit, they can get really turned off by that. So it's better to go into implicit messaging and kind of ease people into these things. And I think we're all kind of aware of how the anti-whites do this kind of stuff. They sneak these messages in. It's just how the characters are, just what their race is. You get the subtext there. It really is that simple a lot of the times. And there was a bit of a discussion about making media for us and for other demographics of people. And yeah, I basically agree that yeah, it's at this point, small scale. You got to focus on us, our bi spirit, what interests us, and the message that we need to get out to people, and not necessarily other groups. I think hopefully other groups can get their own media and it can be in a way that's compatible with white well-being and it's not just more anti-white propaganda. but yeah, so I'm very excited for what I'm going to be doing with Westman and other projects I'm working on in the future. But yeah, I've spoken for a little while, and yeah, I'll pass it to someone. Thanks for listening.
I mean, we have people who talk for much longer, so don't worry about it. I mean, there's we are pretty casual here, but we try not to interrupt people. And if people want to tell a story or go into memories or recollections or nostalgia, that happens a lot. And I think it's a nice part of the space. It also helps foster community. So, and you have a nice accent, by the way. So it's a pleasure listening to you. Thank you for sharing. Uh, I write
Thanks.
creatively myself. So, yeah, this is something I'm also thinking of doing. Because especially in I've spoken about this before, but in like the women books written for women by other women genres, there is tremendous anti-whiteism, as of course the women are mostly college educated and white, and so they've been just absolutely um yeah, yeah, infused to the max with anti-whiteism. um so I kind of want to do a fantasy, um but set in the, like, so urban fantasy where we are white people are dying out, but we're elves. So basically, I'm gonna make white people elves, and we have um, victimizers who are goblins and orcs and other, and yeah, the people can read into this what they want, but uh, yeah, and but hopefully make it a good story, and just see what I just want to see what happens. It's going to be a totally wild occurrence to see how female readers respond. But I am a little hopeful because I have been writing negative reviews about overly anti-white books for several years now, and I've been getting likes on them, and sometimes comments. So I'm not the only one who is hungry for white positive books, fiction, and who is tired of the anti-whiteism. Hans.
Thank you. I think that when you write a based black character for your story, it will tap into that audience, that part of the white audience who feels that they can only defend us when it's already when there's a non-white person doing it. But it also reinforces that anti-white mean pathogen that the opposition is not legitimate unless it's held by someone who's non-white. So it's if you can do that while um, you also diffuse that anti-white meme pathogen, but I don't see an easy way. I have to ask Dynastorm, is there a jump in your game, and does your jump obey Newton's law of gravity?
Jumping? You mean like the game mechanic of jumping? You go up in the air and you land.
Yes.
There is not as a button press, but there are certain contexts where you can there's like an area on the ground, and if you go over it, you jump to a place automatically. So it's like an automatic jump in certain contexts. So for example, like you're on the airship, which is like the hub world of the game. There's some baskets on the top, so it's kind of like an old school style like pirate ship, but with like a blimp over the top of it, and it's got like it's being filled with fire, like like it's a hot air balloon or something. So these baskets are kind of holding that up instead of having sails. It's pretty cool, but you get to it by kind of hopping around and jumping the place, and these little buttons on the ground, and you go on them and you go to another place. So yeah.
Yes, I just previously I talked about they discovered that A simple thing like a jump action in the game, if it doesn't obey Newton's law of gravity, it doesn't feel right. Gamers pick that up. That's why I asked.
Slots,
Can I see something?
please.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, yeah. So, in games design, you can have realistic jumps, but generally, games developers don't make the jumps realistic because they're not as fun as floatier jumps. You can have a jump that's too floaty. You can have one that's too sharp. It really depends on the game, but generally, when games are designing for things, they tend to make it just whatever's the most fun and kind of fits the level design and vibe of the game, basically.
I guess I'll go ahead. Regarding my question originally, which was whether or not we should be appealing to non-whites in the medium that are creative media. Um, I think white positivity answers it inherently. We don't really have time or space, especially right now, to kind of give that kind of appeals when our people are hurting and we have to try to build them up. It's kind of like, why go try to destroy some other person's hut when right now yours is burning down. Doesn't make any sense at all. So maybe it's something more philosophical for the future, but if that's the case, then maybe we wouldn't even need to worry about it at that point. I also wanted to mention the story, Julia, that you were thinking of, the elves and it looked like multiracial anti-whiteism or multi-special anti-whiteism, goblins and trolls, and I was thinking about how would the traitor elves be depicted in that?
Oh, that's a good question. So, yeah, it's it's funny. So when I started working on this, it was already the trader elves were already in charge. So it's just like in our world in the sense that the trader elves have taken over elven leadership. And so the heroes of the story are so I'm a monarchist. I'm a fan of monarchy. So it is a monarchy leadership, but it's gone bad. The monarchy has gone bad, and it's also being undercut by other powerful people who are anti-elven, and um, for the same reasons that many of our people became anti-white because of personal desire for personal status and greed and all that selfish individualism. So really just mirroring and this was already the plan, before I even realized they connected to anti-whiteism. This is already how I had it set up. Because yeah, I guess I just I saw what was happening in the world and this was before I even knew about Jason. So it's an idea that I've had for a while and have been playing with. But yeah, no, I think it just makes so much sense, and it mirrors what happening in reality, and so I think it would be very believable. Greed is always a major motivation in and selling other people out. So it's these the heroes then, of course, are ones who sacrifice themselves for the greater good of their people and fight against this anti-elvish elvinism. Did you want to respond to that, Slots?
Yeah, just real quickly. I was just, Hans, you hogged it a lot. No, I'm kidding. uh, I was just going to quickly say the motivation of envy. The motivation of envy by those who are powerful towards those who have more happiness than them. It's kind of like the short story I had where there was uh, a sister who saw now I'm taking up a lot more time. I'll just try to get through it quickly. A sister who saw her brother was having more fun with her friend than she was, and so she tried to cause him to suffer, and that was envy of his happiness and their connection. And I think maybe implementing some sort of that into the motivations of anti-whites might be cool.
Yeah, I am getting a little tired because it's past 11 for me, but that is also a huge part because in this, so there's already been some racial, there's already been some elvish erasure, right? And so there's already been other races that have been stealing the elven DNA, and then the elven DNA has been diluted by some other races as well. But the pure elves have violet eyes and they have silver hair, and these are seen as the ideal beauty standards in elven modern elven society. But these anti-elven oligarchs lack these features. They have they don't have their eyes are like a muddy blue, a not pleasant shade of blue, and their hair is darker, and they're very much jealous of these beautiful pure elves that have these rare recessive traits. So yes, that is definitely a major theme. Um, and they're also incredibly pale, like translucent, um, and the skin color wise as well. Um, and there's magic as well, and this is linked to the phenotype. So these people who appear more pure also have more magical talent, and obviously that's a huge source of envy to these people who have power, but they don't have magical power. They only have social power or financial power. Hans.
So this is a great um, um, idea that Slots just delved up here, because I said that we cannot just invert the anti-white narrative, but what we can do is we can use this multi-species universe to demonstrate the detrimental effects of biological white erasure. So in one of the Tolkien movies, the dwarf falls in love with an elf, and it's a beautiful thing in the movie. But what you can do instead is you can say, okay, you can bring all the arguments to bear against that. And what pops out if a human goes with one of the others? Well, a goblin comes out. And who wants a world full of goblins? So you can use this in a way where you will not be everyone. The anti-whites will understand what you're doing, but they won't be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly the goal, is that it will be fairly transparent what I'm referring to, but it's all fantasy, so it's uh I'm writing about elves. I can't help it if these elves happen to look like some people, like, and the goblins look like some people, and the orcs, that just happens to be. That is also, um, correct as per Tolkien. So I'm being historically correct within the genre of fiction as well, canonically correct. There we go. So, yeah, I thought it was a decent way, but I will definitely run drafts by anyone who is interested in helping me hone it in terms of fighting anti-whiteism. I'm sure that many of you will have great ideas for how I can um, show ways to convince readers that the anti-white narrative is negative and that we need to focus on ethnocentrism and white positivity, and that white negativity is not the way. And yeah, of course, more heads, more views, I think always help in this regard. Yeah, I don't think we've had you speak, so welcome.
Hi there. Thank you for the mic. I just joined spaces looking for white supremacists, and I just wanted to talk to you guys. I wanted to see if I could get your perspective, and I wanted to see if you guys might believe that. Do you possibly think that race doesn't affect character? That it's actually ideology and environment?
Well, we don't have any white supremacists in here, so you're not in the right space. We are white positive here, so we don't believe that there's any cosmic measuring stick by which you can say that one race is better than another. We all have our pros and our cons in different regards, and we prefer our people because we are white. But that is not to say that any other race is lesser. It's just that we like our people.
I see. Well, I don't know. Maybe some of the listeners might completely disagree with you on that, and they might think that, hey, white supremacy is a real thing. It's a, I see Jackie with a thumbs down earlier, and a couple people putting their thumbs up now, and they totally believe this thing. There's a lot of people that believe this thing that hey, color determines whether someone is better or not. Do you think that?
I mean, this is what we talk about when we talk about white negativity. Is we're talking about these types of people who say that, who just only want to talk about black on white crime or whatever. And there are a lot of people, or the fact that they think that Jews are responsible for everything bad that happens to white people. And we call that white negativity. We do not support that, because what we want to focus on is our people, always centering our white people, right? Our race, and not never to put another race down, or make a racial hierarchy, but look at how are we being harmed, because that's what's not ever discussed in the media. That's what's hidden, and we are being harmed in our own countries and in immeasurable ways, and we shouldn't have to deal with that. I'm gonna toss it over to Hats because I'm sure he can respond even better.
Thank you, Julia. You put it beautifully, but I would put it even stronger, and that is, don't ever use the term white supremacist here. It's an anti-white slur. It's offensive. So stop doing that.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I said this is not a place for. I mean, if for that, like we don't use that term. None of us remotely identify with that, and it is a slur indeed, as is such things like Nazi, or any of these bigot, any of these types of terms. They're always pretexts to that are used whenever white people advocate for their own people. They're not actually white supremacists. I don't think they really exist. I have never encountered one in my life. The only people I have encountered are white people who really love other white people and want to live with white people. That's what I've encountered in my life. Thoughts?
And this is kind of like the point of, anti-white stereotypes. Whenever you have a stereotype, you know what it is and who it targets by who first comes to mind when you say it. So whenever you're using a stereotype that first brings up, or some kind of caricature of, let's say, Nazi, white supremacist, and white supremacist is an anti-white concept to its core. It's attributing a behavior to a whole people. But whenever you have a stereotype, and the first image that comes to mind is of a particular race, such as white people. If you say Nazi, you think of white people. If you say racist, you think of white people. This is an anti-white stereotype, and that's why we don't use those terms here. But when it comes to like the cosmic measuring stick, like Julia was saying, we don't have that here. Our people are who we prefer. We don't accept anti-whiteism, where you stereotype our people by their birth. That's the kind of racial discrimination we don't advocate for. We also don't advocate for any kind of racial discrimination or focus on non-white groups or any kind of warts of their groups. So, yeah, I'll pass it back to Julia.
Yeah, I mean, Slots, I think, said it very well. Hara, you're welcome to continue, but please do not use any more anti-white slurs.
Yeah, I won't. I'm not exactly anti-white. You know, I'm pro-white, but I'm not only pro-white. I'm pro-humanity. I just see that I just see race as a complete invention to the modern way we look at things. You know, I feel like we're here alone on this planet, and on this planet we're supposed to work together to make it a better place. And this whole race, what do you call it, identification or race realism or thing, I just don't feel like it's a constructive thing for our humanity, you know. And this is what I'm seeing an uptick in recently. I've spoken to very okay, I won't say the word, but very pro-white people, very pro-white people, and they are pro-white for white people only, and I mean only. You know, they actively want to harm other people that don't belong to their category, and I feel like this is something that needs to be addressed. You know, we need to look into this kind of thing to prevent any harm. And I feel like the more we fight amongst ourselves, the less we actually get to the real problems that we are facing, you know, especially economically and the way we're subdued by the elites.
Well, I would argue that the biggest evil of our time is anti-whiteism. And if you want to improve the world and humanity as a whole, fighting anti-whiteism is where you start. Because one of the things that is unique to the white biospirit is that we care a lot about other races. And this is a beautiful thing. This is why we're so interested in exploring. Like, we want to try the cuisines of different places. We want to learn the languages, watch the media. And to me, like, one of the worst things I can possibly imagine is all the wonderful variety that we have, all the different races ceasing to exist. So we have like these anti-white globalist oligarchs who, some of them seem to want to mix all the races into one, just like mixed race, like glob. And to me, that is horrific. And the only way to maintain true variety is via segregation. And the other problem you have is that each race, in the way that we view it here, is that, and I think this is very obvious if you just look at the world, has a unique biospirit. And this is a spiritual element, this is a behavioral element, these are innate racial characteristics. And when we project them onto our environment, that creates culture. And if you mix them all together, they conflict. One thing that we always talk about is when you have small minorities of non-whites living in white countries, they have numerical diffidence and so they act white, and they live in accordance to white norms fairly well, because they don't have the numbers to fully express their biospirit. But once they become more numerous, like they have now in many places in Europe, for example, then they start building mosques everywhere and expressing their biospirit. And I have nothing wrong with nothing against mosques. I've been in mosques; they're beautiful, but they don't belong in white countries. They belong in Middle Eastern countries. And I just don't want to see everything mixed together. I want to see everything in its place, and everything flourishing. And right now, our people we used to be over 3% of the global population. Now we're maybe 6% of the global population. And most of that is not of childbearing age. And we have very low birth rates. And I don't want my race to die. And if our race dies out, who will maintain Western civilization? Who will maintain scientific innovation? Who will get us to Mars out of the solar system when the sun dies? Who will do all of that? So I think you have to focus on white well-being. Just from the moral extent, it's fair for white people to have their own countries and their own respect and their own space. And further, because our existence helps everyone. And I would be just as angry if people were trying to eradicate another race. That would be just as bad, right? So just to clarify that. I think Hans was next.
So, first point is, of course, race is absolutely real. If two Swedes, Swedish parents cannot have a black baby, if both parents have blue eyes, they will only have blue-eyed children. It's a law of human nature. Declaring anything different doesn't change laws of nature. But what I want to say about um, um, the well-being of white people, it is not linked to the detriment of non-whites. This is an anti-white meme pathogen. The well-being of white people is independent to the detriment of non-whites. The fact that we don't want you in our countries is because white erasure creates a cultural arms race. The human animal has an instinct. In aggregate, it's the biospirit of the race. So what's happening when non-whites come into a white country? What's happening is initially they start out with numerical diffidence. So they comport themselves to Western norms because they fear retaliation from the host culture. As they gain numerical courage, at some point, they will no longer fear retaliation from the host culture, and they will start to express their biospirit, which is very different from Western biospirit. Western norms like, let's say, consent for sex, objecting to molesting, honesty, um, dogs as friends, not food. These are norms that some of them are shared by other races, but the combination is unique to us. If you look at the wide variety of beautiful Western cultures created by white people, they all share these curiously recurring norms because it's all unique projections of the same biospirit. So no, we don't want non-whites in our country because at some point, if it continues, we can no longer have Western civilization. Western civilization is a projection of white individuals enforcing our norms on our environment every second of every day. When we are white erased, we have no longer have Western civilization. But the fact that we say we don't want non-whites in our country doesn't mean white well-being is detrimental to the well-being of non-whites. Well-being, what non-whites can have well-being in their own countries. There's no conflict there. When they come into our countries, they come in as collateral beneficiaries of anti-whiteism. They come as anti-whites. And you can see that by them proclaiming how they are now English in England, how they are now American in America. They cannot be, there is no Western civilization without Western kind. So no, it's a law of human nature. You can't say race is a social construct. That's an anti-white meme pathogen. It's also it's farcical. It's ridiculous how stupid that is. Do you really think a Swede and a Somali can have a Swedish baby? I mean, I cannot comprehend that kind of um, stupidity in saying something like that in this day and age.
Very well said, Hans, as I knew you would do. Slots.
I wanted to bring up Hans made the point, but I'll make it another way as well. Values are not mutually exclusive between races or groups or cultures. You know, just because a moose requires oxygen to breathe doesn't mean a wolf doesn't. Just because we require a certain structure for our culture doesn't mean there's some values that are shared in others. And it's the same thing with discrimination. There can still be anti-whiteism and there be discrimination taking place anywhere else against another group of people. It's not a mutually exclusive zero-sum pathology that it's framed by anti-whites, which want to do that because we need to be careful about them using this idea of humanity, this label humanity, as an anti-white or white negative definition of what it is. And they do that by saying there's humanity and then there's white people, because white people can't have values that are distinct or distinguished or their own, that they own and that they care about and that as a community they value, without it being anti-human in quote unquote, misanthropic. I don't like the anti-human. That's like Alex Jones and it's kind of cringe. But this idea that it's all mutually exclusive to each other, that there can't be ownership, white people owning their own values, their own community, having those values, and without them getting taking it away. You don't say that about anything more common. You don't say just because white people breathe oxygen, they're taking it from non-whites. That's ridiculous on its face.
Very good point. So I am getting pretty tired and it's running pretty late. It's almost midnight. So I think I'm going to shut this down and read the outro. Before we do that, we'll go around for final thoughts. So let's see. Dinosaur, do you want to add anything else?
Not particularly, but yeah, it was pretty cool to actually speak on one of these things because as you know, I've looked here a couple of times in the past, and yeah, and it was cool to meet and contribute to the discussion, even if it's just for a little bit. And hope you guys keep doing the shade tree stuff into the future. So I'll stick around. But I like to log out of X sometimes because it can kind of draw me in, and I can just be into swashbuckling for a few weeks. And that's not necessarily like a bad thing, but I gotta work on the game. I gotta do the things that aren't swashbuckling. There are already guys doing swashbuckling. There aren't 5 other Go Free Gang games developers, so I gotta kind of stay in my lane a little bit. and hopefully make more stuff in the future. So yeah, so nice meet you all, and yeah, all good.
Well, it was a pleasure having you speak here, and we're really excited for your game. And you're absolutely right. We don't have any other game makers, so uh, I do understand though about getting addicted to the swashbuckling, especially right after, like a month after I'd finally finished Go Free, and I was really on fire. I could just spend 6 hours straight on Twitter swashbuckling. So I understand. Um, Hans, do you want to say anything else?
Yes, well, we started with television, Man of the West, inventor, and what a journey that was, because as we know, television was such a disruptive technology that it basically destroyed Western civilization. That's one way of seeing it. But we're fixing it.
We are, as we eventually find ways to fix all things. Uh, we are innovative like that. Slots, would you like to say something?
Well, I want to thank the space for entertaining my question about the video games and the hypothetical of, expressing our own biospirit. Also, the depth of which that discussion went into about, how our values can be expressed. And that was really important. And thank you for the space.
Thank you. I think you asked some great questions and made some great points. And yeah, Hera, would you like to say anything before we close?
Yeah, I had a lot to say to reply to the guys that were speaking, but since you're closing the space, I just want to say that I wish well for you guys. I'm not white particularly. I'm Indian. I'm Hindu, and I don't particularly. I'm not anti-white. I'm pro-white, but I'm just pro-humanity. I understand where you guys come from. I understand that you guys are 7% of the world population, and I completely understand that when a lot of people from that don't look like you, and if you reproduce with, or you'll produce babies that don't look like you, if they come to your land, then it is a threat to your way of life and the way you live and your cultures and everything, essentially. And I do feel like you have a right to speak up about that. If that was happening in my homeland, then I would speak up about that. It's not a natural thing. You can expect this kind of thing. So I just feel like the way that it's happening, I feel like it's more towards I wish people would recognize that ideologies control the way that you think. The ideologies and your environment, the way that you're raised, controls the way that you behave a lot more than the color of your skin. So I just want people to realize what is things like Islam is, and as Indian Hindus, we've been fighting this ideology for thousands of years, and I just want people to realize that ideology has much more of an impact than race. That's it. That's all I'd want to say, I guess.
Well, thank you for that. I would recommend that you come back to the space, and I highly recommend that you read Go Free, because Jason talks a lot in the book about the importance of ideology as well as the importance of race. And I think that you will find a nice balance in Go Free when it comes to that. That could appeal to you, and I think that you'll likely find that you agree with us more than you might realize. So, and yeah, I really appreciate when we do have, of course, non-white allies, and we really appreciate them. Uh, so, thank you for coming and speaking. And yeah, as long as you avoid slurs, you're always welcome here. I hope it is really important to talk about white negatives and how we can uh, prevent those people from taking over as they often try to do. So definitely something worth bringing up at another space when we haven't been talking here for several hours already. Tree Godfather, do you want to say anything before I do the outro?
Yeah, I'll just say great space and very good job, Julie.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me. It's my first time hosting, so yeah, thank you for all your patience with me. Thank you everyone for joining and helping. I really appreciate it. We had some tech difficulties, but we made it. We made it through. Now, if I can just find the outro. Um, I was trying to access it earlier and it kicked me out of the space. So let's hope it doesn't do this again. Oh, I had it in here. Huh. I might not have it. I thought the intro, outro was in tips. Okay. I might do my best from memory. And then if you want to add anything to Tree Godfather, you can. But this has been the Tuesday edition of the Shade Tree, which is a space where we discuss white well-being using the lexicon and dialogue of Go Free, written by Jason Kerner, Mr. No White Guilt himself, here on Twitter at NWG No White Guilt. And he does come to the spaces and speak sometimes, which is always a great treat. And I highly recommend his streams, which are on Wednesday and Sunday on many platforms, including here and usually YouTube and Rumble and Entropy. So I recommend that. And thank you again to everyone who made the space possible. And until next time. Sorry, I don't have the official outro. I couldn't find it, but I didn't want to crash anything. See everyone tomorrow night. Bye-bye.
Are you noticing changes in our country you find troubling? Do you feel unsafe and at a loss to remedy these fundamental shifts? Have you found the book Go Free by Jason Kuna? The Go Free method provides excellent meme curatives and specific language skills to overcome the anti-white psychological warfare being waged against us across the West. Go Free, a guide to aligning with the archetype of Western kind by Jason Kuna, available on Amazon.
Our children are priceless, and we would do anything to protect them. So why aren't you using Go Free to protect them from the most harmful ideas? Decades in the making, Go Free is a simple yet brilliant practice designed to free us from destructive socio-political ideas. As words are the tools with which we think, Go Free promotes precise, simple, and targeted language to counteract psychological warfare. When you go free of the system's control over your word choice, you liberate your thinking. As you grow, you can empower others. And the most important thing you can do is inoculate our children against the ideas that are meant to harm them.